Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. Alright.
Okay, great to hear from you, Andreas.
Likewise, likewise. Alright, let's see if this is working. Looks like... Alright, cool, I got this video thing figured out. Awesome. Let's switch. I got a couple scenes set up for you. So, let's go into this one. So, it should be starting. We'll check the stream. I think we got a couple people in there already.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, great to hear from you, Andreas.
Likewise, likewise. Alright, looks like the stream is working perfect. How's your day been? Daniel, can you hear me?
Yeah?
Yeah, how's your day been?
Oh, sorry. What? Our conversation just now was broadcasted. I didn't realize that was happening.
Yeah, I thought it was only going to be the video as well. I'm still, as you can see, with the TK Coleman segment, I'm still getting the hang of this producing thing.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're doing it. Well, anyway, sorry, what did you say?
How was your day? How's your day been going?
Oh,
you were in the stream all day
good.
yesterday. It was so awesome. We were so appreciative of that.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, I was really sleepy. I didn't get too much sleep while that was happening, but it was really fun. And it was nice to hear from so many interesting people.
The community is a strong community, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yeah. There's kind of an intelligence barrier that people have to pass through to get in, because they kind of have to realize that the Craig Wright is a scam stuff a misdirection attempt.
I would agree with that. I think I was speaking with Team Winar, which is the people that won the auction for the customized costume that he had made, and they were saying, would it make a difference if he was a fraud or not? And it really wouldn't make a difference, because BSV is the only coin that I know of, and again, I'm not a developer, but is there any other coin that you could do what you're doing with it? Like, for example, your Boostpow project?
There's no other coin that can have an economy that's big enough to encompass the entire world.
Okay.
I think there's others that could do something like boost on them, but like, really, why? I mean, it seems crazy to me that you would want a coin that isn't able to be for the whole world.
Uh-huh.
But this whole market is sort of it's sort of based on the idea that none of the coins can scale really big. Mm-hmm. So then it makes sense that we have lots of them. When really we don't need lots of them. We just need one good one.
Correct, which is what you said in the end. All these other coins, these thousands of other coins, are eventually going to disappear because BSV is essentially going to eat everything, which is the plan. Something to that effect. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and Craig Wright is just one person among many, and he carries a lot of weight, but we could do without him.
He is building though as well, right? I mean, he is using the blockchain to build. He's just not using his actual coins, I think, is what everybody's always saying. He's always against the HODL mentality. Yeah,
well, we don't know all of the coins that are his. So, correct. I mean, we know some of which coins are Satoshi's, but I would presume that Craig Wright is spending Bitcoins all the time. They're just not Satoshi's coins.
Correct.
And yeah, I don't think he's a fraud, but if he is, what matters is we have an economy that can be productive. So we can like what money is a way for people to benefit each other.
Correct.
And so if Craig Wright turned out to be a fraud, all that would mean is we're not benefiting from him, but we're still benefiting from everyone else. So it's still great.
It's great, like the VIBEstream was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you were in the chat so much; it was so awesome. People really enjoyed interacting with you, and at one point, I think you even said that you don't sleep, right? Something to that effect. I think I was watching briefly.
That I don't what?
That you don't sleep.
Oh, yeah, that was a joke. I actually do sleep.
So kind of like the Zuckerberg Freudian slip, or it was a joke. Just double check it.
Oh, no, I was just bullshitting.
Commies. What's going on with this? All this commie stuff lately. All the talk everywhere, all day is commies. And
Yeah.
give me a little bit of insight from your perspective on this, because I know you're feeling it. We were talking about it earlier a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally crazy. I mean, I didn't really think that that communism was going to come back. I mean, I thought that people had figured out that it doesn't work, but and I also thought that the internet was going to be like a new source of knowledge and truth, but instead it's turned into a way to control people.
It's
And
like the Pravda times the world, right? Like the Russian Pravda or whatever. I mean, that's really what. There's so much propaganda on the internet.
yeah, and this all has to do.
It's probably made it worse than ever before, right?
Yeah, well, things are getting bad really quickly. I mean, I don't know where people got this. I mean, the whole world is following China now, and they're saying China did a great job fighting the coronavirus, and what they did worked great, so we'd better do the same thing.
Yeah, well, it didn't work that great. As a matter of fact, I was just watching a segment earlier on a show, and I forget the guy's name, not Fauci, the other guy in the WHO organization. He's not even a doctor. He's like the first head of the World Health Organization that's not even a physician. And back in January, when supposedly we were already trying to shut things down, and again, my whole thing is with this entire Corona scare, which has never left the news cycle in the past, like 3 months now. They almost like have him checkmated with that. Had he kept the economy open, kind of like Sweden did, which they have now what's called a herd immunity to it. They're gaining like a herd immunity. The media would have just blown up all of these deaths and made it seem worse than what it is, and it would have looked really bad for him. But on the flip side, we're about to put another $3 trillion in communism right now with the other 2.6 trillion or whatever that we put out. You heard about that, right? That they're about to pass another $3 trillion bill that has a bunch of BS in it.
No, I mean, I don't really follow politics that much, but what else is in it? So now, how many trillions is that total, and what else is in the bill?
That's getting close to 5.6 trillion. In this bill, they mentioned the word diversity like 20 times. They mention they mention some other left wing type communism type agendas in there. So it's not even going to the person that I was watching, and it made a lot of sense, said that instead of giving that 3 trillion or whatever the case is, if they're going to spend it anyway, why give it to all these people that don't need it when they should give it to the people that the first people should be the 30 million that lost their jobs due to this. Like, for example, I'm a bartender. I was one of the first out with this whole entire Corona thing. But yeah, they're about to put another 3 trillion, and some of it is probably going to go to the people, but a big chunk is probably going to go to a bunch of pork, a bunch of communism shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sorry to hear about what happened to you. I mean, I don't understand how people think they can just shut down the whole economy. You know, they're saving lives, or so they say, but destroying the economy also kills people. I don't see how they're balancing these costs.
Yeah, the suicide rate has been up. People being out of work is probably just as deadly as, probably if not worse than keeping the economy open. And again, I always point to Sweden. I always hear about Sweden. Sweden kept their economy open. They never locked down. They told their citizens, be cautious, practice social distancing or whatever the case is, and they're probably going to be good to go. But even now, after everything opens, for example, in the hospitality industry, they're probably going to change the whole seating capacity type thing. So a restaurant that might have been a 200 person maximum capacity, now with the new social distancing things, they're probably going to add regulations that it might only be 100 people or 150 people. So now you're going to lose a bunch of employees, you're going to lose a bunch of revenue, and you have to, in the restaurant industry, you have to make a certain type of, a certain amount of money per square feet. So
Yeah.
that means you're going to have to raise the price of your food. So you're going to go to your local pizzeria where a slice of pizza was $1.50 with a soda. And now it's going to end up being $5-6. And with tax, it'll probably come out to $8 for a slice of pizza and a soda. You know? Mm-hmm. So the hyperinflation, all the money that's going into it. What do you think about Moisty? He was talking about this. He's been ranting about this whole uranium backed economy, kind of like a gold standard, having a uranium standard.
I don't know. I don't know what he thinks about that. He said he was going to write something. I mean, I just don't know what he's going to say. But I mean, I don't like. I mean, I think that that gold is better for money than uranium, but Bitcoin is better than either of those. So I don't know what uranium would be a standard for.
I guess for energy to mine Bitcoin, maybe, and to mine blocks and transactions or whatever the case is. It's probably the most efficient way to do that. Or
I don't know what's. Well, but I don't know what the standard part means then.
Yeah, like, would it depend on how much you have? I'm excited to read that, probably more than the green paper. That's going to sound exciting because it does have a catchy little thing to it. I definitely want to know more about that.
I left the call for a sec instead of I was. Can I share my screen from here?
Of course you can. Hold on. Let me go ahead and switch to the scene here that I should have set up. And yeah, go ahead and do that. And
okay.
I'm going to get the scene set up here. Give me one moment. Go ahead and give an introduction to it, and I'll get the scene ready for you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about the economics of communism. So I'm just going to show my same old picture of the hub and spokes network.
Yep, loving that.
We can go over what Mises said about communism. Well, we'll do Marx and Mises.
Marx is my favorite. He's like my hero.
Yeah.
Am I wrong for that?
Right. Yeah.
All right, hold on. Getting this set up. I think it's starting to look good. Yeah, if you want, you could start getting into it while I get it set up, and it should be up in a few moments.
Okay. Well, basically, Marx said that interest and profit are irrational, and he believed that labor was the only source of value. So if you were earning money from interest or profit, you were actually exploiting the laborers.
Okay.
And so in Austrian economics, interest is about paying for present goods with future goods. And future goods are always worth less than present goods.
Because it's almost like speculation, I guess, right? Like if it's going to be around or not.
Well, no, it's just that waiting is a disutility. So
Okay.
anything plus time is worse than the thing without extra time. So when somebody earns interest, they're being paid with something that's less valuable than what they gave out. So they have to get a little bit more in order for them to be willing to do it. And their willingness depends on time preference. So somebody with a high time preference would need to be paid a lot of interest in order to be willing to lend out money. And someone with a low time preference would be less, would require less.
So pay you in a week, less interest. Pay you in a year, a lot more interest, right?
Yeah, but I'm talking about different people in regards to the same amount of time.
Okay.
And because people can be more or less present oriented. So someone who's more present oriented would need to be paid to lend out money for the same amount of time versus someone who is more future oriented. And a future oriented person um, likes future goods almost as much as present goods. You can never like future goods the same amount, but a future oriented person doesn't mind waiting as much, and he has long term plans. Whereas a present oriented person wants things now and doesn't think about the future as much. So like the ant and the grasshopper. The ant is the low time preference person, and the grasshopper is the high time preference person. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, they can hear
Okay.
you. I just want to do a double check, make sure everything is good. So,
Oh, okay.
so explain to me the difference between the ant and the grasshopper.
Okay. Well, you remember the Aesop's fable, right? The ant works hard through the summer and consequently has is wealthy during the winter, whereas the grasshopper sits around and enjoys himself during the summer and says that the ant is a fool for wasting his time working so much. And then the grasshopper um, has to beg from the ant later. There's a great Disney cartoon about that in the early days cartoons. It's one of the I don't remember what they called them, but before Disney started making movies, they had this series of short cartoons that were really good.
And what was it? What like kind of like the shortcut cartoons? You mean like Mickey Mouse type thing, or like the old Mickey Mouse where he's on the boat?
Yeah, that was one of their first ones.
Yeah. You talking about Jiminy Cricket?
No, this was before Jiminy Cricket. Silly Symphonies, that's what they did. So let's see. Okay, well, anyway, I was searching for the video, but you should go find it. It's really good. But anyway, the grasshopper and the ant, that's from Aesop's Fables. And the two characters represent high time preference and low time preference. So what Marx said is that people with a low time preference shouldn't have a way to compete in the present with people who have a high time preference. So because he said that all interest is irrational, so any competition between people over lending at interest would not be allowed under communism. And Marx also said that profits are irrational. So in Austrian economics, so interest means more than just lending money and getting more money back. It also refers in Austrian economics to the money that is earned by capitalists for the use of their machines. So when you construct a factory, you have to pay money now, and you have to build or buy a bunch of machines and run them for a while, and then they produce stuff and you sell it and you get paid for that. And Austrians say that so first of all, in equilibrium, there's money being made by capitalists because of time preference. So someone who's willing to own a machine to try to get more money later, rather than just spend that money now on consumption, that's a low time preference person. And it's people with a lower time preference who are willing to own machines instead of consume now, are able to grow the economy so that it produces more. And in an equilibrium state, when the economy is neither growing nor shrinking, there's still income being earned by capitalists because of time preference. And that's because it takes time between the machine being bought or constructed and the final product being sold. So Austrians would say that owning machines, in other words, being a capitalist and earning money from that, is the same as lending money out at interest. And these are the same economic phenomena. So now profit is what happens when you earn something different from interest. So there's an equilibrium interest rate throughout the economy, and that's a price for future goods versus present goods. But if you use your machines in a new way that other people haven't thought of, you can do better than interest. And that's what Austrian economists call profit. Or if you do worse, then you do less than interest. So that's a loss. So the profit and loss system has to do with how the economy changes, whereas and it has to do with who's doing a better job planning, whereas interest has to do with who is willing to wait to benefit later. So Marx said that both interest and profit are irrational. So he wanted an economy in which there is neither. And he said that the way to achieve this is collective ownership of all capital goods.
Correct. Which
And
is like you don't own your own property. Everybody owns it, right? Like this hat is not mine. It belongs to the community, right? There's no ownership of property in communism, right?
well, technically, you can have ownership of consumer goods, but you're not supposed to resell them, and you're not supposed to own machines that can be used to produce more goods. Anything that's like a machine that makes more stuff, you're not supposed to have in communism.
Which is like
Um,
profiteering bad, right? So as
yes.
long as your company is losing money, then you should be okay then though, right? I mean that sounds then you're not
Well,
profiteering.
that's the thing is that there's no market for capital goods under communism, and everybody is supposed to own all of the machines equally. So a company can't. Well, first of all, there isn't really a company, is there? There's just one collective everything, and because there's no market, how do you know if you're losing money? So that's kind of the problem with communism, according to Ludwig von Mises, is there isn't a profit and loss system that is telling people whether they're efficient or inefficient, and hence there's we have an economy where people don't know what efficiency is, and as a result, it's very inefficient. So one of the a criticism that people sometimes make about the economic ideas of Marx is that if you believe that labor is the only source of value, or so that's what Marxists say, um, why is it possible to use labor to accomplish nothing? Like you can say you can dig up a bunch of holes and fill them in again all day, and that uses a lot of labor, but you don't produce anything valuable with that. So I think that um, communists think that this is a trivial objection, but really that's what you get under communism. You get a whole economy where effectively people are just digging up holes and filling them in all day, because the people who would be planning, uh, who would be planning ahead in a capitalist economy are not being paid, and hence they're not providing the service of uh, planning ahead. So we have an economy under communism that is as if there is no planning. And so uh, what I was talking about was like pure Marxist communism. But anytime you have collective ownership um, without a market, you have the same problem. It's just not as bad as collectively owning everything. So most nations have kind of a mixed economy, and so there is a market for some things, but not for others. And so the economy exhibits a mixture of planning and failure to plan, and it's not bad enough that the whole thing collapses. Although we'll see what's going to happen
I don't think it's gonna
soon
be
around
that
here.
good. I mean, all this money that we're pumping into the economy, it's not free. I know it's we're printing a bunch of it. It can't
Yeah,
be good, and especially that we're not collecting anything in return. They're like, "Oh, we're giving you $1,200 per person and an extra 400 a kid, or whatever the case is, it's going to stimulate the economy. How's it going to stimulate the economy if the economy isn't even open?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, yeah, it amazes me that people are willing to accept that inflation is useful somehow. Oh, anyway, this picture, I didn't even talk about it. This is a picture of what has to happen under communism. So here's a picture of a capitalist network, and this one is the communist network. In the capitalist network, everyone is connected to everyone else, and people are individuals because their individual contributions can be integrated into the whole. So under capitalism, we have an economy where everyone just kind of naturally does what they do best, and everyone benefits from everyone else just naturally without people having uh, to control one another. People just kind of want to do that, and and this has to do with prices, because people want to communicate prices to one another because they want to know the latest ones, and so they have to make connections with one another, and the prices enable them to figure out what's valuable that they have, because they can think about how to make profits. And if everybody does that, then everybody specializes and benefits one another. But there isn't something like that in communism. And so, in order for anything to get built under communism, there needs to be central planning. And this is kind of, this is kind of summarizes what Mises said about communism. He said, communism implies central planning. And so Marx believed that under communism, we would have kind of an anarchist society where everybody just naturally helped everybody out. But that's more like what we have under capitalism. Under communism, there isn't a way for people to know how they can help each other out because there's not a price system. And so, in order to know what needs to be built, you kind of need to know the entire economy, because there are trade-offs with everything, right? So in order to understand what is optimal, you would need to know everything. So Mises said there would need to be a central planning board or a dictator or something that would need to collect all of the information about the whole economy, and this central planning board would have to direct everybody, and there would not be any individual initiative to on the part of people who are not part of the central planning board, because they just don't have a way of knowing what kind of initiative is good. So it's not in their incentive to really do anything on their own. So under communism, there's central planners, and then there's a bunch of people taking orders. So we have an economy that's like a militarized. Well, that's why they call it a command economy, because people have to be told what to do. Whereas when we have a price system, people figure out what to do without having to be told, and that's a lot better because everybody can. It's everybody's individual autonomy is harmonious with everyone else. And under communism, there's this bottleneck, and everything has to go through there. And it's, I mean, no central planning board is going to be better than everybody trying to make a profit at the same time, because it's many problems can be solved at once under capitalism, whereas under communism they can only only think about one thing at a time, right? And they still don't have a price system under communism. So the decisions of the central planning board are not going to correspond to what people would actually want to buy. They're going to correspond to what the central planning board thinks people need. And of course, nothing is going to be very efficient, or things won't work very well under communism, because this is inherently an error-prone system. So the central planning board is going to try to tell people what they need, but they're not actually going to be able to produce it very well. And they're not going to be even trying to make what people actually want, because they won't know. So we have we had a mixed economy, but now all of a sudden all of the governments are sort of like, well, you have to stop doing that. So I don't know if we have a mixed economy anymore. If they can just tell all of the businesses to shut down, then we don't really even have a mixed economy.
Correct. Not only tell them to shut down, but they literally put a lady in jail who opened up her salon like the day before they reopened in her town, or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And now LA, it was coming out today that supposedly LA is gonna shut down for another 3 months. To me,
Wow.
it seems insane if, for example, it takes a month, right? Let's say you have the virus for two weeks, whatever the case is, and then the incubation period is 2 weeks. So that would be, let's say, a month, right? Why are we shutting down for so long? I mean, the curve has more than flattened, which is what they keep talking about. The amount of cases are starting to go down, and at this point, it almost seems like they're just doing it to do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, think about the central planning board. They don't know what people want, and they have to guess at what people need. And also, I mean, well, we didn't even talk about the hack, right? So this picture is about all of the spokes being turned into Agent Smiths. So when we have this hub and spoke control system, there's also a big incentive for all of the worst people to try to take control of the center. So in The Road to Serfdom by F.A. Hayek, there's a chapter on why the worst get on top, and it has to do with this. It has to do with the worst people being the most motivated by the prospect of having power. And when you have the central planning system, there is a lot of power with the people in the center. So someone who is one of the worst people is going to be really motivated to try to get in there. And then he's going to turn everybody else into Agent Smiths, because he gets a global view of the network which they don't have. So then he can start to lie about it to everyone and turn them into enemies of each other. So that's communism, and that's what is in store for us. Well, just to finish something I was saying earlier, when a mixed economy still has the same problem, it's just not as bad. But then I was sort of went off and I was like, well, we don't even have a mixed economy anymore. But we have the same problems that I talked about when we have a single collectivized industry. It's just that they're not as big. And well, anyway, there's excuse me, there's communism and capitalism. So
It's would you call that crony capitalism, or what would that be considered? Is it kind of
well, that's a good question. So one of Mises's best books is called Bureaucracy, and this is sort of the best introduction to his thought, I think, because it's quite short, and it explains the communism and capitalism thing in a much shorter, more digestible form than some of his other stuff. But he talks about what's now called crony capitalism, and but crony capitalism is originally what what was called fascism back in what's that noise? I'm hearing some
Oh, I do apologize. I think that might have been me moving the microphone. I do apologize.
So don't worry. So under Mussolini, the idea of fascism was basically crony capitalism. So what Mussolini wanted was he wanted the leaders of industry to cooperate with government.
Which is also kind of what happened, like with Hitler, right? With the VW and all that stuff, and is it kind of similar to that?
Yes. So what Austrians say about crony capitalism, aka fascism, is that it's no different than communism. All that happens is the former capitalists under crony capitalism become the central planning board. And so what we kind of have in the United States is we don't exactly have a central planning board. We have a system that's kind of open for anyone with a lot of money to manipulate it for their benefit. So what we have in the United States is a lot of regulations that are designed by big companies to make it more difficult for small companies to compete with them. So so we don't have so we have a situation that's kind of in between capitalism and fascism, where the big corporations, the leaders of industry, are acting partly like a central planning board, but it's also kind of like a free for all, where they're all trying to manipulate the laws to their own ends as much as they can, but they're not like coordinating. Well, at least not as far as I know. There's sort of competition to.
What do you think about the whole one of my big problems is this whole too big to fail. And then I was reading recently, what about when it comes to Facebook? failing.
Well, yeah, I mean
What
that's the
about
biggest load of bullshit. I mean, too big to fail is so stupid.
it is.
That's
It's
that's
extremely
another
dumb.
one of these.
That the whole point of too big is that you shouldn't fail. You should have, like you said, you should look into the future of what could
Yeah, you want to
happen, right? Like you were saying
fail
earlier.
early and fail often. Yeah,
Correct. Set your as so you could set yourself up for the future and learn from your mistakes. But now, for example, the whole automobile industry bailout, all that, and now we're doing it again. What about when it comes time for a company like Google? What if Google ever goes bankrupt? Are they too big to fail? And how much would that cost us, for example? How much debt are we willing to put into that? So
I
that
don't know.
that
I
right
mean,
there alone, it's America is definitely not a free market. It's definitely not free market capitalism. I could tell you that.
yeah, I mean, I can't believe people fall for that. That is just, it's so stupid.
That
Yeah, every time, yeah, they just come out with these lines like, I mean, we need to stimulate the economy by printing more money.
Yeah, and
Well,
give it
I
to
mean,
you while you're not working, and half of the United States isn't working, and you're going to spend it where at McDonald's and KFC.
yeah,
And
right.
what is that really going to stimulate the economy?
Yeah,
You can't even spend it at a local restaurant, like a mom and pop restaurant, right? So you're stimulating big business, right?
yeah. Well, I mean,
If
the
anything,
people who get them, well, yeah, I mean, the people who get the new money first get to take out of the economy without doing any work. So they're I mean, they're tricking the producers, the ones who have stuff, into selling it for inflated dollars. So, I mean, it's just a complete scam, and people just fall for it again and again. And there's, I mean,
now actually
well,
that
anyway,
you mentioned that, it just reminded me of something I wanted to bring up earlier. Uh, do you really believe that the people in power or trying to push for communism, do you think they even believe that it would work? Or do you think
I
they just know the power that they would gain from communism working the position that they are in?
I don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with what goes on in Washington, but I mean, I do have a lot of experience with people in Bitcoin, and yeah, I mean, it seems to me like the people in BTC, at least mostly, really believe in what they're doing, and they are, uh, but they're people who will believe anything. So, like, believing in what they're doing doesn't really mean very much. They're sort of like people who will. I mean, if you get them to think that they're going to get rich, they'll go along with anything other than what's actually good,
It's the
because
greed, right? The
they
greed
don't want to
factor.
they don't they want to get rich without having to do anything. So if you can tell them that they can do that, they'll believe what you say, even if it's complete crap.
So, since you don't
Um,
know about too much communism from the political perspective, give me a lot more detail from your experience, like you're doing right now with the BTC experience, and how that differs from BSV.
sure. Well, I mean, I think that. Well, have you read Ayn Rand?
I believe he's on Twitch. I have read some of his Twitches. I cannot memorize them all.
Okay, no.
You're
Ayn
talking about a
Rand is
person, a different
Ayn
person?
Rand is a novelist.
Okay, no, I
And
have
she
not.
wrote.
I know there's like a pseudonym, I guess, that somebody uses with that name on Twitch as well, or something of that nature.
Okay, well,
So tell me more
I
about that. That
really,
sounds interesting. Tell me
yeah,
about
well,
Ayn Rand.
I really want to recommend The Fountainhead,
Okay.
and she also wrote Atlas Shrugged, which I don't like that one quite as much. Although there's some interesting stuff in that book too, but I think The Fountainhead has better developed characters. And the Fountainhead is just it's about just what happens in Bitcoin. So there is uh, an architect in the Fountainhead named Howard Rourke, and he's a very original thinker, and he has all sorts of his own ideas about architecture. And the book follows his adventures trying to make his way in the world. And not only do people fail to appreciate his his originality, and he has trouble finding clients. But excuse me, people in people who represent the status quo want to stop him, and they want to prevent him from becoming famous and wealthy, because they don't want the status quo um, uh, to be shifted. They don't want anything to change their position. And when I first read this book, I thought that it was kind of crazy, because I certainly hadn't experienced anything quite like that. But that's certainly uh, what is what I've experienced in Bitcoin. Because when I got into Bitcoin, what I imagined is that people would just want to make Bitcoin better because they would want to get rich. And if the Bitcoin economy grows, then Bitcoin gets a lot more valuable. But what actually happened is most of the people who got into Bitcoin didn't understand it well enough to know what's good and bad very well on their own. And so they were sort of easily lured into accepting the idea that they can get rich without growing the economy. And so now we have, fortunately, there were some people who actually wanted Bitcoin to succeed, and in BSV they've kind of found one another and are now working on that. And people in BSV are actually trying to produce things that are useful and that would make a rational person want to join the Bitcoin economy. So what would be rational is getting a new form of money if you believed that there was going to be stuff to buy for it in the future. And you would want to get in on it as early as possible, as early as you could figure out that there was going to be stuff to buy for it, right? But what they've done in BSV is they've convinced people that you can have money that will never be able to buy anything, which is nonsense. And so, well, people like my analogy of BTC as being like a dead whale at the bottom of the ocean, because if when that happens, there's lots and lots of scavengers that can live off of the dead whale for a long time. But eventually, the dead whale is totally decomposed and there's nothing left of it. And the scavengers
I've seen some
don't.
videos of that, in a documentary of all the little worm type looking
Yeah,
things
there's
feeding. It's amazing.
yeah, there's a great one that's one of those David Attenborough documentaries. I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, they have it in that.
It's
And
crazy. Have
when
you seen when the whale? And I'm sorry to kind of get off topic. Have you seen when the whale carcass floats to the top and all the great white sharks start eating on it? And they're
no, I
really,
haven't seen
oh
that
my
one.
gosh, it's amazing. They have this video where these uh, cinematographers or video people, whatever it's called, are on top of the carcass as these great white sharks are literally feeding on it. The carcass is so huge that they're able to be on there while the great whites are eating. Pretty dope. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. But anyway, so it's kind of like there's a living whale that's next to the dead whale, and the living whale could could provide sustenance for a much larger group of sea animals, but it's a baby now. But all the scavengers want to do is kill that and eat that too, and then they'll quickly have nothing left. Um, they don't want the big economy later. They just want to have they want to just consume everything now. And if you try to reason about it, all they do is they just use cognitive dissonance against you. So they don't want to genuinely listen. there's there's this conversation that I once did on this YouTube show called Hard Forking, and
That sounds like a snazzy title. When was this?
yeah, it was a few months ago, and I was with a BTC person named Vinzen,
Okay.
and the
Is
conversation
he a
is
vampire like that other
really.
dude?
He was pretty nice.
Okay,
He
cool.
wasn't like Richard Hart, but the weird thing about this conversation is how he keeps saying that he's really interested in everything that I say, but it's almost like he's understood none of it. And so I say some things
So
that
kind of like me.
just no, you're listening. No, it's really weird. I'll say something that totally destroys his position with BTC. Like I'll explain the Lightning Network or something, and he'll be like, "Oh, that you said a lot of that. That was some very insightful things that you said." And now, and like, it just starts babbling about something else. Like nothing I say penetrates his thinking, even though it appears that he's listening closely. It's really as if it has no effect on him.
It's that you are so smart, and maybe it didn't come across, and he didn't want to seem a certain way. I don't know who the person is. Again, I never really came from the crypto space until
I don't know.
Twetch.
Well, at the end, the host asked him if he was more interested in BSV, and he was like, no. I mean, the charts tell me that BTC is going up, so he doesn't really care about
Development
logic.
or
He
building.
just wants to read. He
Number
just
go
wants to
up.
read the charts.
Kind of like an NPC. Number go up.
Yes.
Charts say number go
Right.
up.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
I'm sorry, that kind of caught me off guard. I was gonna say something I completely forgot. Please continue.
Well, let's talk about how Boost changes. Oh well, first of
I
all,
heard Satoshi had a really good review for it, right? I mean, Craig Wright, right? He really loves.
yeah,
He
right.
really loves Boostpow, right?
Yeah, so
If
I'm
I
going
if
to
I
see. I'm
understood you
gonna.
correctly, Craig loves
Yeah.
Boostpow,
So
right?
yes. No, actually, I have some more information from Craig. So this is some stuff from MetaNet ICU, and the question is, can anyone explain Boostpow? All Daniel's presentation to documents mostly talk about unrelated philosophy and less about what the Boostpow experience use cases are.
And this is
So
Craig Wright.
no, that's just somebody. So
Okay.
uh,
Excuse
you
me.
have to block out other people's names and identities when you copy stuff from MetaNet ICU. So so I mean, I think this is interesting because I would say that my presentations and documents explain why proof of work is a successful strategy. In other words, what in other words, they explain that people benefit when they pay more attention to messages with more proof of work, and they value their information in terms of proof of work. So, in other words, I mean, I think it's strange that he says it's unrelated, because to me, I have explained how you benefit from using proof of work, and my system, Boostpow, is a completely, well, it's meant to be incorporated into other services. So it's just kind of an abstract proof of work selling service, and other people are supposed to figure out how to incorporate it into their services. But anybody who needs spam filtering or content ranking can use it. And I think that it's the optimal way of spam filtering and content ranking. And so,
And you got people like Dagan using it with Baymail. You got people like Josh Hensley using it on RetroTwetch. So you're going to be
yes,
seeing numbers in the future if people are actually using the service, because I'm sure they're, you know, going to give you some type of a feedback. Have you gotten any feedback so far?
yes. Well, so far I've got feedback from developers like Josh and Dagan,
Okay.
because they were just interested in learning how to use it. And so I've been kind of madly working on the mining pool integration. So right now we only provide a low difficulty version of the service. So not such a great service right now, I think.
I think
But
when I'm on RetroTwetch and I use his little boost thing, it allows me a difficulty level between 1 and 40.
yeah, so that's one is the original Bitcoin block difficulty, the difficulty of the first Bitcoin block, and currently the difficulty is in the millions or billions or something. I should know that, but I would have to check. But it's a lot more than that. When we get the service connected to the mining pool, we'll be able to achieve difficulties that are on the order of Bitcoin blocks. So if you wanted to get difficulty as high as the current network difficulty, you'd have to pay, what miners are making on a block, and but we could also, well, that'll roughly tell you what the price is going to be. Of course, we'll earn some profit on top of that because we're selling it retail, and whereas the block earning from the block. That's like wholesale. And
so you're not going with the Karl Marx economics of just like losing money on the transaction?
no, no. Well, Marx didn't believe in losses either. So I think when in communism you have neither profits nor losses, or at least you don't know what you're getting, which means that you get losses. They're just
So what
invisible.
if you make profit and then donate your profit to charity? Would that
No,
be
you're not.
Marxian?
You're not supposed to. No, that was all supposed to be for the workers. You're just exploiting the workers if you earn profit. Um. So. Now there is a paper that's called "Biological Signals as Handicaps" by Graffin, and it came out in 1990. So I would greatly recommend that. And he's building on work from Zahavi. So I would recommend reading Zahavi's book first because it doesn't use math, and his book is called The Handicap Principle.
The
But
handicap principle?
Graffin's, yeah, and it's
Zahavi.
a great book. If you read this, it's going to open your eyes, I think, and I'd say it's one of the most helpful books for understanding Bitcoin that I've read. So, but Graffin's model uses mathematics, and it's very general, and it's a very I think I think that it's hard to get out of his proof. It's a very general proof, and it uh, it establishes the idea of the handicap principle in a way that's a little bit stronger than you can get in words. Although I don't think you really need math, but now that we have this math proof, it's sort of it's easier to see that you can't get out of it, I think. And so what his proof shows is that he he postulates a a population of animals that uses a type of message to communicate, and the sender of the message he calls males, and the receiver of the message he calls females. But that's really just a metaphor. Sexual selection is a really obvious application of the handicap principle, but there's a lot more. So when he talks about males and females, he's not literally talking about males and females, although that is an application. But he says that there's senders and receivers, and the receivers know nothing about the senders other than the strength of the signal. So the signal that is sent has a value in it that can be read by the receiver. So it's a number, and the only thing that the receivers know is the value of that number. And so what Graffin proves is that if it is a stable strategy for senders and receivers to use this signal to communicate the fitness of the senders, then the signal is honest. In other words, the strength of the signal will correspond to the fitness of the sender, and the signal is costly. In other words, were it not for the additional attention from females that the signal gets the males, the mail would be worse off from sending the signal. And finally, he proves that the marginal cost of the signal is greater at a given level of signaling is greater for worse mails. And what that means is that it is easier for a more fit mail to bear the cost of an additional amount of signal than a less fit mail. So that's what we have in Bitcoin with the proof of work system. And I think that this handicap theory applies to Bitcoin. And I think that it applies more generally to the use of proof of work on any message. Okay, so now we can talk about some of the things that were said in MetaNet.
Yes,
So,
I'm reading that. It looks pretty freaking spicy.
Yeah, there's some great stuff in here. So I'm glad we get a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm hyped about this part right here. I hope everybody in the chat enjoys it. If you got any questions about it, drop them now.
So I guess I don't have any responses to the blanked out people. So, but what Craig says is, if you want to boost a message, pay me. I would prefer money. I really don't give a toss about a POW effort you may do. I know you value my time when you give me money. Nobody will take a boost. They will take money. Well, the problem with that is, if I send you an email, I'm not really paying you for your time because you don't send me a bill. So if I'm paying you to read a message, I should get the bill after you've read it, and there should be some kind of service associated with reading the email. To me, just sending an email and you reading it is not a service. And of course, I don't know if you've read it just because you've received it. So someone who demands money to receive an email is not providing a service. And therefore, I would say that in equilibrium, you can't earn money from receiving emails. And I think we've got another instance of people in Bitcoin who want money for nothing. It's not as bad as in Bitcoin Core, but I think that it doesn't really make sense to think that you would get paid for receiving an email because there's no service there. Now, and there's also a conflict of interest because you can accept the money without reading the email. Excuse me, and you could even solicit messages because you want the money, not because you actually intend to read them. Whereas if we attach proof of work to emails, the only way that the recipient can benefit from the emails is by their content. So there isn't a conflict of interest anymore. And it's rational to pay more attention to messages that have more proof of work. So the boost system aligns the incentives of receiver and or sender and recipient. And so I say that if you want to be paid to receive an email, I just won't send you one. And in equilibrium, that's what people will do. You don't you just can't get paid for not providing a service. And someone who, whereas someone who wants proof of work for receiving an email, you can be pretty sure that they've read it, because it's their incentive to set the difficulty at the level that they want to read everything that they receive. Because the whole point is that proof of work is a spam filter, right? So if you're still receiving messages that you don't want to read at a given level of difficulty, then you just set it higher. Well, those are spam, right? So you set it higher until you don't get those anymore. And whereas if you set it too high, then you might miss stuff that you want to read. So
Correct.
you want to figure out the right difficulty for you. And if I'm sending you a message, I can be reasonably, I can have a reasonable idea that you have read the email.
Now,
Because
would you still be able to, for example, have your regular contacts that you receive your email from that wouldn't necessarily have to be boosted, or do you have the vision that everything gets boosted? Like, for example,
well,
your cousin sends you an email, right? And they only send it with, they send it without a boost. Like, is it going to be easy to filter, like, from your own people?
well, I think, I mean, it really depends on how you want to implement it. What I'm working on is not about how to implement it. I'm just building the service for anybody else to do what they want with. But my suspicion would be that we don't need to do that, and my best friends and my cousin or whatever would still need to do proof of work and achieve my difficulty level to send me an email. And I think that's true because I don't think we need very much to effectively eliminate spam emails. So,
Correct, because if you're spamming emails, you're sending millions and millions and millions of emails, or whatever the case is. Even to target low difficulty would cost you some money
yeah,
if
so
you're
I think
spamming, right?
we'll be so I think we'll be setting our difficulties at amounts that cost a few pennies, and people just won't mind paying that. We won't need to have whitelisted people, but
And on top
maybe
of
we
that,
will.
it's your data, for example, like if you're using a service like Baymail or whatever the case is, right? So on top of not only preventing spam, if you're doing it on chain, then you own that data, as opposed to Gmail. If you, for any reason, get banned off Google for hate speech or something, you know, there goes your Gmail. So with this, you would still be able to keep your data, for example, if it's on, as long as it's on chain, right?
Yeah, yeah, but that's a separate issue. But yeah, so Google lures people in with free services, and then it learns everything about them, and it watches everything they do, and it figures out how to simulate people, and it uses this information to figure out what how to attract their attention. And so people aren't very concerned, or I should say some people aren't very concerned about this, because they're like, oh, it's just for ads, whatever. But that data can be used for anything. It can be used to figure out how you would react to anything. So it's not really just about ads. It's that's just what they use it for, that you actually experience regularly. But all of that information can also be used to figure out how to manipulate people politically. Well, so you could use it to figure out what kind of scams people will fall. Hey, manifestable. Okay. Just finding it. Dang it. Here we go. Okay, can you see that again? There we go. And so then Craig says, personally, I couldn't care less about how much people spend letting computers grind, wasting electricity. It's not the point of proof of work in Bitcoin. The proof of work in Bitcoin is to demonstrate an investment that is easily captured. I think this is what people are missing. You have a large facility that is easily sequestered under law if you don't follow the rules. These other systems are all about code is law. Proof of work in Bitcoin is not about an anonymous system that allows anybody to act in any way they want. It is something at risk. There is nothing at risk in Boostpow. If you falsify the signal, you pay money to do that, then there's no cost to you. Well, so first of all, go back to look at the paper, biological signals as handicaps. The proof in the paper concern messages who know nothing other than the strength of the message, and the use of the signal is still effective in that case. So I would say that Craig is actually mistaken here, and the proof of work in Bitcoin is a costly signal that is a good reason to pay attention to the latest block, even if you are unaware of the nature of the cost that is borne to produce it. So what he's saying is that a cost of proof of work in Bitcoin is that your investment is easily captured. So you have to you have a large facility that is easily sequestered under law. However, I don't agree that that is the point of proof of work in Bitcoin. To me, you don't need to know that. So what he's saying is true of Bitcoin miners, but it doesn't negate the use of proof of work for other purposes. Proof of work. So the second he says this is about code is law, which Boost is not about code is law. It's about economics. The handicap principle is an economic demonstration. It's not just about, well, code is law is totalitarianism. That just means that you think people will they'll just follow whatever rules you make up. So that's not what it's about.
Well,
And it's not about an anonymous system. It runs on top of Bitcoin, so the same privacy model as Bitcoin. And it's not true that there is nothing at risk. Anytime you lose energy, you are inherently putting yourself at risk because there's a risk of running out.
right. Like like imagine if you're trying to sell a home, right? Like you could just sit in your living room and just hope that a buyer walks in the door, or you could put some energy into buying a sign that says for sale and put it in your yard. And that takes energy, right?
Yeah. And you
So,
could hash your address and do proof of work on it too, and that takes more and can be verified all over the world.
yeah, and I see it like a little bit like what Craig's talking about as something like when, I feel really bad to say this about Craig, but when the only tool you have is a hammer, sometimes everything looks like a nail. And he has that view about a lot of the things that he disagrees with, And so because he doesn't necessarily fully understand Boostpow right now, he just sort of paints it in the same corner as some of the other things that he did.
Yeah, well,
Even
I
though
don't think he's examined the idea very closely. To me, it seems like he's just groping for reasons. So now he says, if you falsify the signal, you pay money to do that, then there's no cost to you. But the whole point of proof of work is that you can't falsify the signal because it can be verified. Can be verified from the recipient's computer by looking at the hash. So you're not falsifying the signal. And when you buy proof of work, you are exchanging money for a demonstrated opportunity cost. And that's kind of, and there's going to be a price for hash power, right? So it's possible that you could end up with a really good deal so that you have a bigger signal than what you would expect for the amount of money you paid for it. Or it could be that you get scammed, so you lose more than you would expect. But what normally happens is that the price approaches the real opportunity cost. So the price for buying proof of work is going to it's going to be better for people who don't want to buy their own ASIC machines. So this goes back to the time preference thing, because somebody with a higher time preference would just want to buy it from someone with a lower time preference. But it's still a demonstrated opportunity cost.
So one thing too that I want to ask is the boosting of the information doesn't like the idea is that the value comes from the doorways that the boosted information gets through that potentially other information wouldn't have as easy as a time getting through. So this is sort of a bad example, but if you boosted information, like let's just say that there was no possibility that the information could ever get accessed, right? Even though it's a ridiculous kind of assumption, but there would be no value in just boosting access. They're boosting information there would be no possible way that it could ever get accessed, right? So the value is in its ability to be accessed, right?
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah. I'm going to use that because I've I've talked to people who don't quite understand this. And yeah, so adding proof of work to a message does not make the message more valuable. The value is the content of the message, and it's just the same as how a more beautiful tail on a peacock does not make the male more fit. What actually happens is over time, the a ratio of tail to body is established in the population, and this ratio is the optimal for survival, for surviving by his body, and for increased attention from females.
Right. So if there was no females, I guess what we're getting at is if there were no females, then the male would have no incentive to grow the tail.
Right. And
because
what the female is actually interested in is the body. She doesn't really care about the tail. The reason she's interested in the tail is that it's easy for her to assess, and she knows that the male's body produced the tail. So the tail tells her about the body.
And so in that sense, Craig is actually demonstrating the effectiveness of what you're proposing by saying, I don't care about the proof of work, but that's actually good. He shouldn't care. You know what I mean? He's saying, like, I don't care about that, but that's true. Like the female wouldn't care about the tail, right? Like he's saying, just give me the money because that's what I care about. But you're saying, but then that becomes a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So by using the signal, it needs to be something that someone doesn't care about, but that the attaching it to something that someone should care about is what's actually taking place. And if it were something that someone wanted, it would actually in some ways subvert its ability to actually signal, because then it would be like the coveted thing, right? And it would lose its ability to be just a conveyor of something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the proof of work doesn't, if you're looking at a message, the proof of work doesn't make that individual message more valuable. It's just if you pay more attention to messages with more proof of work, you get better information on average. But
and
that
that
doesn't,
in and of itself is a market too, right? And that's a market that hasn't, because proof of work is just coming into being, it itself, the market hasn't been created yet. So, the early adopters of proof of work are going to be the ones who are learning the relationship of value to proof of work and defining it.
yeah. But eventually everyone's going to have to learn that. That's kind of what I like about this system. You have to value your information first. You can't just talk nonsense and get everybody to listen. You have to be competent enough to spend energy on your message.
Right.
By the way, there's a couple questions in the chat. One being from user 453, which is Mason, I believe, if I'm not wrong. It says, question for Dan, how would you respond to someone who calls something like Boost a rat race?
I'm not sure. Can you clarify what you mean by a rat race?
Yes, I'm going to type to him in the chat and we'll find out if we could find a clarification. WW Ocean says,
So
back in the day, if you sent a letter, you always had to pay for postage. I just look at Baymail as me getting the cost of the stamp instead of the post office.
Right. So you should. It's reasonable for a server that hosts your email to ask payment, because they're providing the email service. And so the way we do things now is you subscribe to the service. But what we can do with Bitcoin is you pay the server when you send an email, and you pay the other person's server when you send the email. But the recipient of the email is not providing a service, so he shouldn't get paid. But yes, the server can get paid. The recipient should get proof of work, though. So, do either of you know? I mean, I'm not sure what. Let's try to get a definition of rat race.
That's what I'm doing right now.
I think it's like, I think the definition of rat race would basically be like the gerbil in a wheel, except instead of you competing with instead of you thinking that you're just alone, the rat race is kind of like this. It's like the carrot on the stick, right? It's like it's this illusion that it's kind of in a way like the business model of Google that you described, where you're getting something for free, which is like the carrot on the stick, but as a result, you're being ridden into the indefinite future. So is it similar to that, or does this break the cycle?
Well, I mean, I think that Boost is a stable strategy, and that means that once people start using it, they're going to be better off. And people who don't use it are going to be more worse off the more people who do start using it. So eventually everyone will have to use it. And I mean, I think that the benefit of a boost comes from being a recipient of messages. And that's really, like, everyone is better off because of that. People who want to be the center of attention, regardless of whether they actually say anything worth listening to, do not benefit from boost. They're worse off. And the people who but everyone else benefits because they don't have to listen to those people anymore.
So how would you respond to someone that saw one of the potential pitfalls? Because one of the things about bringing something to market, which you're doing, you know, there could be pitfalls that you aren't aware of yet because you haven't really it hasn't gotten adopted yet. So those are kind of waiting. And so what about someone who thought one of the pitfalls was that potentially people could be competing for the highest proof of work value, and then that in itself becomes an endless race in vain? That was the furthering of the question.
Well, that is what happens. But you should think about yourself as a reader, not as a writer. That's where the benefit comes in.
Right.
You have to spend less time listening to other messages before you hear something good.
How high do you think communism is going to rate on the boost level?
Well,
yeah, okay, well, yeah, let's talk about that. Let's get through everything else Craig said first. But so Boost is going to defeat communism, so I'm really excited to get it working. And but first of all, let's see.
But even to that point, even more important, is it going to defeat crony capitalism and all the other things that we were talking earlier? Is it going to reign in a true free market?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we use proof of work, it becomes disadvantageous to try to spread deceptions. And so we won't have situations anymore where bad ideas become widely adopted, at least not for very long and not as easily. We have a situation where bad ideas die out earlier. And
just one more thing, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We got a clarification on the rat race. He's saying, I guess I mean that everyone is competing for the highest proof of work value, and it becomes an endless race in vain. And he's saying also that he's hearing your message loud and clear. Thanks, Dan.
Well, yeah, I think the festival just read the other sentence, but yeah, I already responded to that.
Okay,
I said sorry. That it does become an endless rat race in vain. Yes. And but you know, you're better off as a reader than as a writer. So the people who lose in the boost system are bad writers, and the people who win are readers and good writers. And right, here's a good question: who determines what a bad idea is? So I would say reality determines what a bad idea is, and the reason that proof of work is effective as a way of eliminating bad ideas is that it's a signal of spent energy, and energy is the most real thing there is. At least that's known to science. So if you're spending energy, you must have an idea that is more beneficial to you from everybody reading it than the loss of the energy you spent on it. And if you have to value your ideas in terms of energy, you have to think about reality. So, so let's go to what Craig said at the bottom here, since we just talked about that. He said it's not even a provable waste of energy. It can be a merge mine effort that finds solutions alongside normal mining. So that is I would say that he's still groping for arguments there, because in order for merge mining to work, it has to be designed in. And I would say that, so what the way that merge mining works is a coin's developers will say that a valid Bitcoin block that mentions a merge mined or that mentions their coin in the Coinbase, it has the hash of the header. That's also a valid proof of work. So they say you can construct a valid block of our coin if you make a valid Bitcoin block and hash the header of the other coin's block and put it in the Coinbase of Bitcoin block. But that's not how Boost works. You have to design the rules for your merged mine coin in order for that to work. It's not like merge mining is just automatic or anything. And I would say that merge mining doesn't really work. It effectively makes the merge mined coin a part of Bitcoin. So they might as well just be putting all of their coins transactions in Bitcoin transactions. And there isn't any reason for a separate blockchain at that point. Let's see, and so I don't have a response to what he says at the top. I think what I already said today is adequate. Just go back to biological signals as handicaps. A signal is effective if it demonstrates opportunity cost, absent any other knowledge. Not that you wouldn't want other knowledge, but if you don't have any, it still works. So then he says, it's not about allowing every single node in possible existence to exist. I mean, I think that something that Craig doesn't understand is that what I'm doing isn't Bitcoin, or it seems like he thinks that I think I'm doing Bitcoin, when all I'm doing is selling proof of work. And I say, if you have a bunch of ASIC machines, they're useful for more than just Bitcoin mining. So you can sell the proof of work for Bitcoin. But what I'm doing with Boost,
extremely important.
yeah, what I'm doing with Boost is not Bitcoin. It's just something else that uses the same ASIC machines. And
essentially, like you're just taking something that could be basically, a useless, piece of hardware once, a couple years go by, and the development, they're no longer applicable to the race for Bitcoin, and you're just creating like a brand new market for.
That's true. Yeah, they could be that. So yeah, so we're having a crash in ASIC machines right now, and what I'm doing is making them all more valuable. But
which is good for Bitcoin in the end.
Yeah, but Craig doesn't like that. So he says the only way to prove somebody read something is to test their awareness personally, and there's no method that you can use that will even ensure that this didn't go to their assistant and bypass the person you want anyway. So I don't know. I think that this is really weird. Like, it seems like Craig understands economics really well, but he doesn't understand the economics of what I'm doing. But
this is one of the biggest criticisms that I've seen of Boostpow, which is essentially, this isn't valuable to me. And I think what you're demonstrating by building this network is the idea that so like an individual person, even if they're very important in Bitcoin, just their specific opinion is not enough to give something value. And so you're just basically saying, well, this might not be valuable to you, but that doesn't mean that it's not valuable. And so
Yeah.
he's not seeing it as the reader, like you said. He's saying, well, it would just bypass me and go to the assistant. So he's failing to see that actually he's the one that will benefit from this because he'll be able to read fewer messages that are important condensed into a smaller amount of space or time.
Yeah, and also the reason that you can believe that somebody read your message with Boost has to do with economics. It's not a proof that works on an individual basis. It's just on average you would expect people to choose difficulty levels that mean that they're going to read everything they receive, or that's just their optimal strategy. It doesn't prove
Right.
anything on an individual basis. It's just what is in their interest.
It's almost like, in a way, like the Amazon verified purchase, that's like a signal.
Yeah,
But it's a centralized signal that Amazon is sending, saying that this person's data, you can consider their data to be more valuable than a random user because Amazon has verified that this is a real action. And so you're saying, in a way, Boostpow enables people to have the ability to send a signal about the validity of their own data with no central issue.
yeah, and and I don't know. I mean, so well, anyway, I'm glad that that Craig had this this conversation to say his thoughts about it, because that gave us a lot to talk about. And I think that his objections are going to be repeated by lots of people. Not just because they listen to him, but I think that he says things that are kind of like a natural reaction from people who only gave the idea an initial look and didn't really quite understand the economics behind it. So oh yeah, so communism. Yeah, let's talk about how Boost is going to defeat communism. So I mean, when we use Boost as a content ranker, what that means is all ideas are ordered, not just on one platform, but all platforms that use it. So you effectively can get a list of everything that people are talking about today, at least in public, and you can go down the list, and it can be worldwide, and well, the best list would just have everything. So it wouldn't just be like Reddit versus Reddit or Twitter or YouTube. It would just be everything. And you can go down the list by proof of work levels, and so can everyone else. And hence, all the people will have the same idea about what's being discussed. Now, of course, there are still language barriers and things, but if people are talking in different languages and they produce messages with high proof of work values, they're going to want to translate that to one another. So I think when we use Boost, there's going to be a worldwide shared conversation that doesn't have intermediaries controlling the flow of information. In other words, there isn't going to be somebody acting as a gatekeeper, sort of like the mainstream media or Twitter or Facebook or Google or any of these organizations that can sort of say on their own authority what is important and what's trending. There's kind of a once you get a lot of a big audience, there's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you can kind of tell them what you think is important, and then that's what they're going to talk about. With Boost, we don't have that. Messages have to actually be important in order to be talked about, on average. In order to control the conversation, you need a lot more boost than someone who just wants to get his information out there. See, there's a difference between somebody who has one idea that he believes is able to compete with all the other ideas and get to the top of the ranks, versus somebody who needs to eliminate other ideas in order to be talked about. And communism is an idea that needs to expel other ideas because it's not genuinely competitive. So what a communist would need to do in order to manipulate people when we're using the boost system is they would have to get all the ranks, at least all the ranks that people typically read. So let's say the average person reads the top 10 boosted stories for the day. The communists need to get all 10. So in order to control ideas, you need a lot more boost than someone who has a genuinely competitive idea. And because all of the ideas are ranked, everything is being compared to what is nearby, which isn't necessarily something that that is saying the same thing. So people like to surround themselves with information that reinforces what they already believe. But with Boost, you can't do that as easily.
So what you're saying is even a company that has huge amounts of capital and resource will never be able to compete against a truly organic, great movement or idea or whatever the case is with Boost, right?
Yeah. So the winners in the proof of work game are the ones who can correctly value their ideas. So presumably a big organization has some good ideas that that we would want to know, but if they overvalue their ideas, they lose energy, and it's the same with anybody. And the reason this works is it's inherently riskier to try to manipulate people with deception than it is to offer genuinely good ideas. And the reason for that is good ideas are good for you as well as other people. So if you have good ideas, you're benefiting yourself and other people when you talk about them. And therefore, you're able to afford a little bit more boost relative to someone who only has bad ideas. Because someone who has bad ideas, he cannot benefit himself with his ideas. So, good ideas win out because people with good ideas are more competent. And it works the same way with the sexual selection game, because the more fit males can afford bigger horns. Well, that was something I mentioned in from the paper. The less, it's more costly for less. The marginal cost is greater for a given amount of advertising for less fit males. So if you're overvaluing your ideas with Boost, you're like a less fit male that is trying to compete with a more fit male. And the more fit male will be able to survive relatively easily with big antlers, whereas the less fit male will not be able to survive as easily with similarly sized antlers. So everyone who produces information is like a male in the model, and you have to figure out how fit you actually are in order to win with the Boost system. So communists are not fit. They're telling each other how to be incompetent all the time. They're good at controlling information. They're good at, well, we talked about that too. We talked about why the worst get on top from F.A. Hayek. So they're good at finding the hubs where information flows and taking them over. But they're not good at actually being competent at real life things. So when we have communism versus capitalism debate in the future, when everybody is using Boost, everybody will be hurting themselves because they'll be spending energy on the conversation, but the communists will be trying to achieve similar difficulty levels as more competent people. So they will have less left over. They're hurting themselves relatively more. And really, if they really wanted to act like how communists typically act, they would have to have 10 times as much as the more competent capitalists, because they would need to get all ranks. They're not good enough to just have one rank. If they really wanted people to do communism, they would have to expel all other ideas, which means they would need to have all ranks. So when we have the communism versus capitalism debate in the future, the communists are just going to lose energy until they can't talk anymore, which is not what happens now.
Wouldn't that be a dream?
Yes, that would be really good. So that's kind of what I think the importance of Boost is, and I think it's good for all conversations online. But to me, that's what really motivates me to get it working. Is I'm very concerned with the way things are going now in the world, and it seems like things are moving really quickly, and we need something that will turn things around as soon as possible. And so I want to get Boost working, and it's pretty much all I've been doing for the last few months is doing the mining pool integration. And it's been pretty miserable work, but I think it'll be worth it.
How much would you say you've gotten accomplished so far with that? Because I know from the few conversations that I've had with you, I mean, you've been putting everything into it. If you would like to say anything about it and the experience that you've gone through, do you want to give us a little?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's just complicated programming. I mean, we have our mining pool software, but of course, it wasn't really designed for what I'm doing. And I had to learn all about the Bitcoin script in order to make it, and I had to learn all about how mining pools work in order to design something that was compatible with the existing system. And then I had to mess with the software itself. And it's, I mean, it's hard to say how much is done because every software project is like a fractal. But I've gone through a lot so far. There's a few check marks I have remaining on getting the system functional. But so hopefully it'll be done soon.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing more people implement it. I can't wait for Twetch to implement it on their site, and because it's really fun using it on Josh's site and being able to use that as a filter and check the top boosted RetroTwetches. I think that's definitely pretty neat. And again, Dagon using it, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more people use it. And I love the fact that you came on here and always try to make it very clear on how it can be used and why it is valuable, because you make an amazing case for it, and I think it's going to do amazing, personally. I have a lot of faith.
Okay, well, thanks.
in
Yeah,
it.
and I'm very encouraged by what's been happening so far. And of course, I think Twetch is amazing, so I'm very excited for them to implement it. And Twetch is going to be most people's first introduction to Bitcoin. At least that's how it looks now, and that it sure seems like. I mean, I don't think anyone's anywhere close to what they've accomplished. So as Bitcoin grows, they're going to be the first experience with Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And so people who use it are going to get used to how to use Boost. So pretty soon, well, I'm excited to see it in action.
Yeah.
I think that um, it'll be really interesting to watch it play out. Of course, I've been imagining it a lot, but it'll be interesting to see what really happens.
Ooh.
Because I think that
I have a good idea as well. Because if you still have a little bit of time, I'd like to go just through a couple Twitches that I thought were pretty interesting. And this,
yeah, sure.
it kind of inspired me. How about we do a little game with these Twetches?
Okay.
And it's going to be a hypothetical game. And it's going to be like boost yes or no, and how much difficulty you would put towards it.
Okay.
Oh, that sounds fun. I'm going to switch over really quick to a different scene. And it should be a video playing for a few moments, and then we'll go ahead and we'll go into some Twitches. Do you have you want to say anything before we do that?
No, I'm all set. Let's go.
I love your enthusiasm, buddy. All right. Give me one moment. Let me switch over to the scene and see if it works.
No thanks. Are you sharing your screen? I don't see it yet. Oh, okay. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I'm still here. I can see it on the YouTube. We have a video coming through. I have it muted so that it doesn't feedback. All right, there we have the Satoshi doodles.
Oh, right, Satoshi Doodles. She's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's about energies.
That's
P.S. If you're interested, you can find the unblurry GIF and a few bloggy thoughts here, which she leaves a link. So, to boost or not to boost? That is the question. I'll start off with you, Daniel. I'm going to put you in the hot seat. Would you boost this, and how much difficulty would you put towards it, 1 through 40?
Yes, I would boost it, and I would give it a million difficulty.
I love that. I love that.
We're not doing one through 40. This when boost is actually working.
Okay. Okay, so you'd give it a million. I like that.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
what's his name? Dr. Evil. 1 million difficulty.
Oh yeah.
What about yourself, Manifesto?
well, I was gonna say, Daniel, that's a pretty high number, 1 million. But when I have kids, and like, so my son thinks that the number 10 is actually higher than 1 million. Like we get into conversations of how much we love each other, and I say like, I love you 1 million, and he says, I love you 10. So I would boost this 10.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That's even
that's
higher than a million.
fair enough. So we're at 1,000,010. I would definitely boost
Yeah.
this as well. I'm gonna
Well, I
have
mean, it's
to agree with
the
you.
whole thing.
I'm gonna have to
How
agree
are
with
you?
you that I'm gonna have to go with 1 million as well for this one. I like that. That's a great idea. How about this next one? I don't know if you guys could see it yet on your screen, but it is from Isaac Morehouse at 2956. It says Friday. Emperor of Bitcoin, Cosmos Sagittarius coming to a numpty near you. Fill us in on this, Cosmos, because I am excited about this.
Well, I'm just going to be on their show and do a conversation, and I don't know what I'm going to talk about. So sorry, I that may not be the most exciting response, but well, I'm just glad that people are interested in bringing me on their shows now, because I think that I have a lot of information on how to make Bitcoin successful. So it's nice people want to listen now.
I love that. And being that this is in the future, right? It's not happened yet. Would you boost this or would you not
Oh yeah,
boost
that's
it?
a good point. I would definitely boost it, and I would boost it 2 million because I
Ooh.
would be self promoting. So that's kind of important.
I like that. How about you,
Daniel,
Manifestable?
this one I would boost closer to 5 million, because I think that these guys are really, they do such a service to the space, because they aren't sort of like just blind faith followers. They've found this, which I think most people in BSV aren't. So, but they really, they haven't divorced themselves just because they believe in the technology. They haven't divorced themselves from their skeptical and inquisitive nature, and they actually get a lot of blowback, surprisingly, from that, even in a community like BSV. So, I think it's natural that people's guards are up because of the history and the circumstances of this. but I think we need to caution ourselves against people who are not trying to like slander or misrepresent information. They're just trying to access it as honestly as possible. And I
Yeah,
actually
well,
had a
I mean,
question.
I was really really excited to see this show because I know that these are all really smart people, and I enjoyed listening to what they had to say. Um, and and yeah, I mean, it's important to be able to take a good hard look at what we're doing. So, I mean, I think that what's going on in BSV is light years beyond what's happening anywhere else in crypto, but that still doesn't mean that what we have is going to be interesting to the outside world yet. So I think we have a ways to go before we have products that lots and lots of new people will really want a lot. But things are much better than they were a few years ago. So I'm pretty optimistic.
So we
You have some history with Derek, right? With he kind of like saved your Nakamoto Institute writings. Is that true?
Yes, he helped. He copied the Nakamoto Institute page, which was being run by my former friends who became BTC cult members, and they betrayed me. And he made the Nakamoto Studies page, which has similar content, and so that was really nice of him. And there's also a few articles on there that were taken down from the Nakamoto Institute page. And yeah, I'm glad that I have an ally in him, because he's not going to. I mean, what Pierre Rochard and Michael Goldstein did was to stop listening to anything that I said, and yet still ride on my coattails, because I was one of the main reasons that they became popular through the Nakamoto Institute site. So I don't think you should use that site anymore. You should go to Nakamoto Studies instead.
You heard it here. Nakamoto Studies. Greater than.
I think like that to me speaks to their character too. Like that's something that when that's what the internet really is for, right? You don't know Derek McGill. You're not in the same city. You didn't grow up on the same street. But here's someone who all the way over around the world can see what's happening to you and empathize with you enough and believe enough in the spirit of what you're doing to just go out on his own and sort of make a kind of a mirror of your site, so to speak. You know what I mean? Which
Yeah, well,
Super
he's a
cool.
good philosopher too. You should. He's got a bunch of videos. So you
Yeah,
should check
he
those
was
out.
yeah.
he was also on here as well with TK, and
Yeah.
big shout out to them. Thank you all so much. And as far as me boosting this, I was gonna say 750,000 difficulty. However, I'm going to adjust that since I was responsible for the audio technical difficulties we had, and just to prove that I do feel really horrible about that, I'm gonna change from 750,000 to 1,750,000
There you go.
boost difficulty.
You
If
heard
you,
it here.
love you guys. Thank you all so much for coming on and dealing with my beginner experience with this producing thing.
Well, the parts that we could hear from TK and Derek were still really great. It's too bad
Amazing.
we didn't get the whole thing, but
Amazing. Amazing.
yeah.
And
Derek is user 109 too. If anyone's wondering, throw that out there. He posts a lot of great content.
Yeah.
tons. Let's move into the next one. We got Tall at 9492. He says, we are excited to announce Tall has processed a record-breaking block, 309 megabytes block, 1.1 million transactions. Contact info@tal.com to join our MAPI beta for bulk transaction processing with volume discounts on the most scalable blockchain, Bitcoin SV. To boost or not to boost, and do you have any comments for this? Let's start off with
Yes, I
Daniel.
would boost this one. I wouldn't boost it as much. I'd probably give it 100,000 or 200,000, because I think that lots of people will naturally want to spread this information. So I wouldn't think that I need to help very much. And I also think that we're just going to see bigger and bigger blocks eventually. But yeah, congratulations to Tal for your record block, and I'm glad to know that you're there ensuring that Bitcoin services are not interrupted. So
Give me a number. How much difficulty?
200,000.
I like that. How about you, Manifestable?
Well, for me, this is a clear-cut case of the absolute most possible boost I could. I don't foresee myself leaving anything higher for the rest of the night. This one I'm going to go in the 300 million range to acknowledge the 300 megabyte block and the 1.17 million transactions. But actually, I'm going to throw a curveball here, and I'm not going to boost this as Tal. What I'm going to do is boost this if I'm Calvin Air, because I'll pay to make sure that this information gets out of our small world network to the larger data centers that are basically floundering, all fighting over the same little pieces of breadcrumbs that the market is tossing to them, and like little pigeons, and not realizing what this represents. This represents the pathway of the next 150 years. And so I will apply as much boost as possible to get this into the hands and eyes and desks of people who have no idea what the future is going to be like. We're going to be living in the fifth element here soon.
I like this two different sides to the coin. So Daniel has his one strategy, right? He feels that I'm going to boost mine a little bit more because he feels that that one is going to need a little bit more boost to make it to the top, as opposed with this Tau, he's like, wow, everybody's going to be on this, but I'm going to throw my own boost as well. So I'm going to save a little bit of my energy, and I'm going to boost 200,000 because he knows that somebody like Manifestable is probably going to boost it 300 million in difficulty level.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool the way it's kind of theoretically playing out. I wonder if it's going to play out like that in IRL, in real field situation. So I'm going to have to go with kind of, I like Manifestable's enthusiasm on this, and I like your conservatism on it, knowing that it's going to probably be boosted very far because it is a record block. However, I'm going to go with a boost of about 10,000, and the reason for that is I am not going to give it a higher difficulty until we break that 1 gigabyte block. I like the fact.
Well, actually, I'm going to change my answer and just say 0, because it already has been boosted 300 million. So I don't need to add anything.
Ooh, whoa, you were the first one to make the boost, though. You can't
No, but I'm saying like the block itself has a difficulty of 300 million. So
Ooh, I get it.
or billion, I should say. It's 10 to the 9. So we don't need to add anymore. It's already boosted a lot.
I love that. I love that. Let's go into the next one. We got the record breaker on the VIBEstream, Kurt Vuckert Jr. at 292. He says Core said that Bitcoin could only process 8 megabytes of payments before breaking. BCH said that anything above 22 megabytes was impossible because of physics. Today, there was a 309 megabyte block 309 megabyte BSV block, full over 11 million transactions. So again, it's going back to this last one that we just went over. But being that you've been in the space so long, Daniel, do you have any comments for this, and to boost or not to boost?
Yeah, I would boost it. I would give it 10,000. So to me, this is kind of like a cheerleading. I don't think that he's saying something that original, but it's still relatively important. And yeah, I mean, it's the core and the BCH developer. They're kind of like people who prefer the horse and buggy over the automobile, and all they can do is imagine failure. I don't know how. I mean, it's as silly as inflation to say that we can only have 1 megabyte blocks. It's as silly as too big to fail.
But it's McDonald's. We can't let it fail.
Yeah.
What about you, Manifestable? What do you got to say about this?
So I'm going to use my my boost. I'm gonna give Mason the power to make my boost. So he didn't give a number of how much, but he's saying actually what he would boost would be Harry's Twetch in response here because he thinks that that's hilarious. He
Ooh.
says how many of those 1.1 million transactions were Twetches, and he said I know that you like monitoring at the mempool all day, and actually, that's a good question. So I think it's interesting because it's two different things, right? So he actually has a very real question, and maybe he might know how to do it, but there might be something that he doesn't understand about that. So he'd be trying to boost it in order to get someone who has the capability to determine that to do it for them. So so I would boost Harry's Twetch, asking how many of those transactions are Twetches with 300,000. Because I'd be interested in that data as Harry, because I'd want to know how I'm doing with my task.
I'm sorry about that. I was trying to get into the chat because if not, it messes up my thing here and it just went off. But in regards to that, since it's Kurt, I think I'm gonna have to set the record here. I'm going to have to go with a staggering 500 million. Cause I heard he's and the reason for that is it's very simple. I heard he's like 6'3" or 6'5", and I know he's 250 pounds, and he's a purple belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu MMA beast. So when I go to CoinGeek, I want to make sure that I don't have any problems for me boosting Harry's post instead of his, and actually accidentally catch him in a dark alley there at the CoinGeek after party and have him ask me why I boosted Harry's post instead of his. So 500 million for Kurt Vuckert. I'll see you at CoinGeek.
Well, that's nice. I'm sure he would appreciate that. That sounds like we're getting pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Here though.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'll make it home from CoinGeek or to CoinGeek after boosting it 500 million difficulty. But at least I will be safe from the grasp of Kurt Vuckert Jr.
Yeah, well, if the current difficulty is about 300 billion, and they're earning about 7 BSV from that. That would mean a million would be about 1,000th. So that's really only a couple pennies worth. And 300 million is that would be a couple hundred or well, no, you would be paying a couple of pennies worth because you would be paying 1,000th of the current difficulty. So actually, it's not that much. We probably should have had we probably should multiply all of the difficulties we suggested by another 100 or so for it to be
You know what? Screw
meaningful.
that. I'm sticking to my 500 million, Kurt. If you don't like it, then just let me know and I'll add to it. Whatever, guy.
Anyway, there's going to be people are going to have to practice and get an idea about what some of these numbers mean.
And
but what I
if
would
you
like
want to
to do
practice,
is,
you could practice on RetroTwetch.com or on Baymail.
yeah, eventually what I want to do is display difficulties in terms of percentiles, so you don't have to deal with some arbitrary number anymore. You see like how many other posts today had a similar difficulty, stuff like that.
Yeah.
True. All right. Well, let's get right into this next one. And it's from my favorite Twetcher right now, by far, Joshua Hensley at 145. And he said, I wrote about my experience building RetroTwetch. And it is a CoinGeek article. He posted it from RetroTwetch. And I have not yet read it because I want to be able to give it my undivided attention and read it in one good sitting. So to boost or not to boost Manifestival, let's start off with you this time.
Well, first of all, I want to just say, yeah, Joshua Hensley, he's like in the movie Zoolander, Ansel. He's so hot right now. He's
Yeah.
so in.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Joshua Hensley would boost this article because he number one gets basically I think the reason why Joshua Hensley would boost this would be to get this into the eyes of some important people, so you want to get your information onto the right desks or onto the right desktops, so to speak. And so being as how he's in the industry right now, he'd be boosting this in order to get snapped up by Ben Stiller's modeling agency.
What movie are we watching here exactly?
The one that's in my head, Daniel.
So to boost so how much would you boost it?
Okay, so I would boost this a good 70,000 if I was Joshua Hensley.
So if you were Joshua Hensley, 70,000. How about Manifestival?
For myself, I would, I probably wouldn't boost this if I was myself, except for in the sense that, I think that boosting content is kind of a, it's just like when you like something on Twitch. There's no real incentive for you to like it except for just expressing your gratitude and building camaraderie and building community. So my sharing it or my boosting it as manifestable, I'd actually have a different objective. I wouldn't be interested in boosting it as much for him, so much as it would be for my building community and relationship with Joshua. In which case, I'd probably boost it a little more because, as like a newer user who's newer to BSV, I'd maybe want to lean on Joshua, some of his expertise and wisdom in the future. So maybe I do it as a good sign, good faith sign believing in the path that he's going down and do maybe a solid 150.
I'm digging that. I am digging that. So I like that you kind of wanted to go into his head as well. And I'm wondering what type of approach he would take. Would he take the same approach as Cosmos, or would he boost it maybe that 70,000, knowing that it's going to do extremely well, or whatever the case is? He's so confident about it. But let's go on to actually RetroTwetch and boost it. And I'm going to say I would leave a 40 boost for it, because that is the cap I have right now for it. And I don't know if you guys could see this on screen. This site is amazing. I gotta kind of fix OBS for it. But I'm gonna boost live right now.
I just love that Joshua he doesn't really wait. He doesn't wait that long. He's not dragging his feet. He's like, all right, it's already up. It works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And I'm really, really, really hoping. So let me transition over here. People are going to see this right now. If you haven't seen RetroTwetch yet, you're kind of going to get a little glimpse. If you want to see more of it, go to www.retrotwetch.com. I suggest you go there. It's extremely fun. It makes Twitch seem like a game. It is freaking amazing. And I suggest you go there. So what we're going to do is, he also had, I left a 1 boost on this one, just more as testing and stuff like that. But let's find that particular post from him. I don't know if you could click on profiles yet. He said he made some minor updates. So maybe it's in
we can't really see what you're showing us on the check the YouTube. Okay,
there. Yeah, it has a little bit of a delay. Let me find his post here. I wrote about building RetroTwetch, so let's go ahead and boost that, the maximum amount that we have available right now. By the way, Josh, I've become a real big fanboy. You are amazing, and I love what you're doing.
He's so hot. He's so in it.
So hot. So hot.
That Hansel. That Hansley.
He is the man.
I like these icons.
Boosted job. Oh, this is the optimization that he did. Oh, sweet. You could check the status now directly from here. Before, it would give you the transaction ID. And it was a little bit different. It looked more modern. Now he changed it kind of like using the CSS fonts from like... is it the same ones? No. Okay, it's a little different. But, yeah. Check status. So let's check status on that. Boom. Nothing yet.
Love it.
Nothing yet. Okay, can't check status yet. But that was definitely updated. So I'm going to leave a like on that as well. And when you leave a like on RetroTwetch, it costs 10 cents. So, boom.
Yeah.
Hook him up with that. And I want to drop him another... And let me ask you a question, Cosmos. Are you going to be able to... Can you boost over and over and over again on the same piece of content? Or do you plan on that being...
Yeah, it's... proof of work is additive. So... yeah, so you can add more. Well, anyway, guys, I actually have to get going now. I'm getting sleepy, but it was really nice to talk to you, and I'll see you around.
Likewise, man.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining and spending so much time. I know it's been a long time. Me and Manifest will run through this right quick. But thank you so much for joining.
Thanks. Man. I really like being able to talk to people through your Twitchcast regularly, because that's kind of been something that's difficult for me recently.
And you're always welcome on here. If you need a place to vent, whatever you need, you're always welcome.
All right.
To come on,
thanks.
man.
I'll see you around. Have a good night.
Likewise, brother. Manifest, are you still there?
Here, yep.
All right, cool. I can't really go through the chat right now because
I'll do the chat real quick.
All right, cool.
So we have some so Trisha One Love says hi.
Tell her I said what's up.
Oh well. Actually, I think you just told her yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, going back to Daniel answered Brian OIA's question. Then we had okay, so then WW Ocean asked, are you talking about Satoshis when we were mentioning a million or 500 million, etc.? So let's see.
I think what he was talking to was in reference to difficulty levels. Um,
Yeah.
Difficulty levels being mined, and the price does vary for that. If you go through RetroTwetch, for example, the amount that's being charged, I think is like 17 cents for a difficulty level of 40. But that's also because since it's convenient to do it straight from RetroTwetch, Josh does charge a fee of 1,000 satoshis, I think, per boost job. But you can actually go directly to boostpow.com, and I think you could explore content there if you don't want to pay that extra 1,000 satoshis or whatever the case is. But I'm sure those fees for mining difficulties are going to come down, and in the future a difficulty level of 40 is going to be near, fractions
And
of a penny or
also,
whatever the case is.
Joshua Hensley is just banging these updates out right now. He's just churning through them, and so but one thing that I don't know if you got a chance to show while you were on RetroTwetch, but you can sort the posts by boost energy. Yeah.
Let me
So
actually go through that.
yeah. And then we actually had a really great comment from U453, who I believe you're right is Mason. He said most of the transactions today, he was responding to the post about Harry, and he said most of the transactions today came from a competing Twitch platform. So I think I have to take his word for that because I don't know.
Yeah, no, Mason doesn't have a reason to
I'm
lie.
assuming that
Ask
would
him if
be
he
the
could
full.
elaborate on that a little bit as well.
Yeah, U453, if you want to let us know any.
So,
The only thing
as
I could think of would be the
Manifestival
float.
was mentioning, is you can sort it by, but he said competitive, right? To Twitch, competitor.
Yeah. U453 said the Twitch competitor, which I think there's that one that
WeBlock or
Timosat
Bitcoin SV.
was posting about, right? The one that Randy posted the SpongeBob SquarePants. The I don't really care. You know what I mean?
As
Great
manifest.
master at the Discord, man. You got all the skills, stretching the screen out, letting everyone see.
Yeah, either when I'm doing it on the fly, like it's better if I know every single thing that we're gonna do, because then I could have
Yeah,
it all
I get
set
it.
up and I could just switch from scene to scene or whatever the case is. But
Yeah.
like for example in Discord, if somebody comes in, it kind of switches it around. Like if you see it's like switched around or whatever. So, but as you were mentioning, you can do it by boost.
Right.
And as you can see, here's all the different boosted content. Of course, the master OSG Twetcher, Josh Hensley himself, he has 102 boost on this Twetch that says summoning hash power. A little like emoji there. Oh, can you click on that?
Well,
Yeah, cool.
also one thing about Josh is I feel like he really represents a lot of the spirit of what's going on. Where Bitcoin, the concept of it is like it's kind of like it's like a jetpack, right? Everyone like a world where we all had jetpacks. We could, it's like the jetpack for information. So it's permissionless, right? And so that's what he's doing. It's like, oh, I can just create this. Okay, I'm gonna create it, and so it's awesome to see that he's the one who's really getting this off the ground and bolts together, and his content is getting to start.
Yeah, well, we're gonna
He's
actually.
like Joshua Hensley's like the Satoshi. You know, right?
Dude, he's a badass, dude. That's all I gotta say, man. Is he is a total badass. Let's go ahead and we'll start killing this off. We've been going on for a long time, but it's been super fun, man. I could talk to you guys all night. Here is Stone Vase at 243. So again, going back to that big ass block. So block 634643 with below average fees raised 0.788 BSV inside 309 megabytes. That means that 3 gigabyte blocks can erase the halving effects and shift the balance towards transaction fees. We are not very far. And I think he's right by that.
Yeah, I love that. And the other thing too is, so I took a look at that block, and it was $4 million worth of BSV transaction. The block got processed for $145, $148 tall, and at the time, I looked up the transaction metrics, and the same transactions, the same volume of transactions and dollars of transactions on the BTC network would have cost $2 million.
$2 million. Yeah.
$2 million. So
Yeah,
when they
that's
say
that's not
enterprise
feasible.
level, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the ability to, obviously no using BTC for those purposes, but at the same time, even Visa would charge something like $70,000, even in the low, even if you
Yeah,
just
well,
have
look at one of the most popular things, which is Cash App, right? If you send $100, you're paying like 70 cents or something like that. You send $100 with BSV, you're paying like 0.7. You're paying 700th of a penny,
drop it too. They're not happy with that. They're like, we want it even.
which is great.
So basically, what they're doing,
That's incentive. That's
they're
incentive for people to make a switch to BSV. Is the extremely low fees. And they need to go lower. Like they said, the lower the fees, the higher the incentive. The higher the incentive, the better chance you have of onboarding people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you walked into, if like you were following someone into like an empty warehouse, and they were just talking to you and telling you a story, and then all of a sudden they put a gas mask on, and you're just like, huh, what's the gas mask for? I wonder what that. And then you're just on the floor.
Yeah,
So it's like they're getting ready for a world that no one even knows. And so it's like we obviously are paying, but they're going to be putting some of these businesses really like out of business.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can process $4 million in transactions, going from 1.2 million people or wallet addresses or whatever to 2.5 million addresses, and you're processing that amount of data for $148. Like, not even the price. You could go to the supermarket and get, just like your week's order. It's like less than your week's order of food, and that's just like you said, they're building it out, and that's the data element of it, the interoperability where the different layers are going to be able to communicate with each other. Yeah. U453 said they weren't real user generated, which I think someone was alluding to. Might have actually been Joshua Hensley on 24-hour Twetch, sort of. And Kurt were kind of talking about that. I didn't really understand, but they were calling them like Gatling gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what that?
Yeah, Gatling gun transaction is like rapid fire It's like you take a penny and you make like 1,000 transactions with that penny or something like that, or whatever the case is. Or you take like 10 cents and you do like 5,000 transactions, and you're literally paying for the the Gatling gun is just paying for the transactions, and it's blowing. I don't know exactly how it works. I just know it takes one transaction and splits it up into like thousands and thousands of freaking microtransactions. So you might just take a penny and blast that and blow it up into 1,000 different
But
transactions.
what's funny is with BSV, you know, the penny comes out on the other side. So you, like, I get what you're saying, like you just blast a penny out, but the thing is that the penny is getting to the other side, right? Because so U453 says just pissing away BSV to. But what's funny is they're not actually pissing it away, right? Because they're firing it out of the gun, but then it's landing in the outputs that they've designated, and it's basically there still.
I guess
Like
maybe it's more like a proof of
movie.
concept. Like, look, we can do this, as
Right.
well.
Yeah, it's like one of those old movies where they build the machines that can like transmit, like teleport the human, and like the human goes to the
Star Trek.
next scene, but they're like, yeah, but they're like 99.9% there, but there's might be just like one to them that's sort of like a little glitchy. It's like the penny goes to the other side. It's just missing that minuscule data chunk of like of that penny's base value. People realize what that represents. The future's here. It's like teleportation.
I wouldn't be surprised if we were far away from that, actually. I know it sounds crazy, but I have a lot of, I do believe a lot of crazy shit. Like, I think this GIF right here is crazy sick, dude. Look at this, dripping by Vanished OG 2-digit Twetcher at 52.
Throw a like on that one.
Oh, I did. The good old school swiping the long ass money button. Taking forever. And then we got this Calvin Air making another post at 11651. There is a reason Craig is always right about Bitcoin. Hashtag Bitcoin. When are we getting hashtags? I hope soon. Dragon SV, Bitcoin SV, hashtag we choose SV, and then there he is. There he is, sporting a big old Craig Wright on his tank top. I don't know if you can see it yet, if it's in the stream yet.
Yeah, I'm about to be able to see it, but I actually saw that poster. But before I was going to mention when you were looking at the dripping, I think shout out to Randy, who I believe his user number he said that he was looking to pay for people to gifts. So if you haven't seen that post that Randy was referencing, check it out. If you are, or as Andreas calls them, GIFs, if you make GIFs.
I think you're breaking up a little bit. Can you still hear me? You're breaking up a little bit on my side.
Good. Sorry about that.
No, it's cool.
I got a bad network.
So we completely forgot about. I tagged Randy on that one, by the way. We forgot to go with the booster not to boost, and we got to make these a little bit quick. Drippin' Twetch, to boost or not to boost, how much boost, and what do you think Dan would have boosted it?
I'm gonna go with the Daniel would probably boost it. He'd probably give it like 20,000, like that. But I'm gonna go with the Joshua Hensley metric of boosting because I would boost it on RetroTwetch. I'd give it about a 30.
I like that. I could dig it. I'd give it a 30, 35. Maybe I'd give it a 40. I'm very generous. I give it a 40.
Yeah, you are generous.
Now
you're good-hearted.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. I try to be. I've write a lot of things, that I've done, but I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. That's a story for another day. Calvin Air in the tank top.
So
what do you think? Boost or not to boost?
Well, I think the important thing about boost is you got to know what type of content boost and what type of content. So this is what I'm gonna say. That's a no for me, dog. With the Jackson shaking my head because this is just a picture of him in his gym. He's not really necessarily looking. This is just sort of like having some fun. He doesn't need to get.
I don't see no sweat broken there, right? That's more like a check me out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Maybe if he was maybe you know who I would boost is the guy that just lifted that deadlift of 1,000.
There you go. That's like an
I would
accomplishment.
boost that 1,006 sure.
But that's what I liked about what you said earlier. Like leaving likes is one thing because you're kind of contributing to that person in a certain way, right? For a certain type of post. But something important like this, right? Yeah, it's worth a like, right? But is it worth a boost? It's the difference, right? Does it really matter if anybody sees this? Let's move on. I like this one because I'm excited to see if any memes come out of it. And this is Christian Lopez, first time Twetcher at 11924. This is my first Twetch. Excited to be here with the fire sign. But then right under it, it says it's time for Bitcoin memes. So I haven't checked yet because I want to do it here. If he's posted a meme already, I'm gonna leave him a like. So let's go through here. Oh, he's made a few posts. And I'm starting to like this already. So you need to pay to get paid. S9s are going to die soon. Rest in peace, sweet prince. You know what? I'll give you a follow. I'll give you a follow because you've put a few Twetches in. I like that.
I really like that meme that Aquaman posted in the post there.
In the
It
comment?
reminded me of it said me coming online with my stolen meme to cheer you all up.
Yep.
And it reminded me of a great meme by Salty, which was I think you might have seen, but it was he said, "I'm not stealing your memes. I'm sharing
Here.
our memes."
Yes, the communism one. But think about it.
It's so funny.
But think about it. Is it really stealing the meme if they haven't posted it on the blockchain themselves? Or are they stealing the meme from you now in the past because you posted it on Twitch? So who really stole it? You see, communism is confusing. And we got another post by...
I mean, I like
Go ahead.
Kurt Wookert Jr. What?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I just like, one of the, I like all the dialogues. Anybody that can get on YouTube channel, talk sense about V, of watching it.
Dude, Kurt Booker
Some of them-
was amazing.
He's the best. He's such a G, dude. This guy is like, and he just plays it so cool the whole time.
Yeah, yeah. And he's always laughing. He's always laughing. Like every 10 seconds he laughs, which is great. Laughing makes you live longer. And Josh came out based on that. He had his base moments. Everybody's so based. You got base Dagan, you got base Jack, you got base Frog, you got base Randy, you got base Josh. Dude.
So I made it through most of the 20, but I had to sleep. I ended up sleeping a little bit.
Yeah, you're breaking in and out a little bit.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's cool.
I just said that I had to sleep, and so I missed what Coineasy did with River, so I got to go back and check that one.
Yeah. That one was really, really good. I really wanted to jump up in there, but I would have felt bad doing it without the boys. At least one other person with me, and plus River is, really good at what she does. She's been doing it way longer than me, so I was like, if there's anybody that's going to interview this man and make it amazing, it's going to be River. And let me tell you something, you gotta watch it. I think I timestamped it in the comments, so if you guys, I think I timestamped all of them except part 3. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure I timestamped 1 and 2. But again, going back to based Josh Hensley, again, minor UI updates in version 0.07. Let me know your thoughts. dope as hell. What I've noticed from using it for the few moments right there was when you boost something, instead of showing you the transaction ID, now you can hit the status, and the font changed a little bit. Really dope. Really, really dope.
I love Joshua's attitude, and a lot of people are adopting. He's not super about everything. Trying to
Yeah, dude, you're breaking in and out again. I'm so sorry, dude. It sounds like so choppy. I could barely hear what you're saying. Can you start again?
Yeah, can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, it's sounding a little bit better. I don't know if it's maybe because I need to mute my mic out really quick. Go ahead.
I think I was just in a bad room. Is it better here? Well, I was just saying, that I think a lot of people, Joshua's spirit, he's not asking questions. He's just putting, his nose to the grindstone and putting in the work. It's like that person in the gym, that like you're kind of like checking yourself out in the mirror a little bit, and he's just doing another rep. You know what I mean? Like, so.
He's doing another rep and flexing at the same time. I love that guy,
Yeah.
man. Big ups, man. Like, I didn't really know too much about him, but he stole my heart with RetroTwetch. And let's go into exclusive media at 11813. Graphic design. And as you can see, a nice, crisp, clean logo here. Really digging that. Definitely deserves a like. First poster. Big shout outs to you. Exclusive media. Dope or not? What do you think? I don't know if you could see it yet.
Yeah. Give me a sec. I got going back into the other room here because I left because that was where I was breaking up. Oh, awesome! This is so. I would give this. You know what I would do with this? If this was on RetroTwetch, I would throw the coin at this.
Oh, for
I would
sure.
/pay a quarter for that because
Oh,
that is dope. I just love the symmetry of it, like text, the bright gang vibe of it. It's
yeah.
awesome.
I'm digging it. And now we're going into the next one. I kind of put it in there early so you could start seeing it. It should start showing up. It's Petro at 10092. I keep seeing these all over the place, and I haven't researched it too much, but every time I look at it, I'm like, it kind of reminds me like when I first started seeing 2028. Do you know what this is? Is there a XAEA 12 here? And then the guy down there says it's pronounced Kyle.
Yeah. So apparently, I didn't realize this, but Elon Musk he has like 11 kids or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And he's got 11 kids with like 4 different women or something, or 5 different women, and he marries all of them. I think this is what my wife is telling me because she looks all this stuff up. She loves like the relationship drama of people's lives. So he's got like 5 wives and a bunch of kids, and so this is his latest kid's name. His name is
What?
I think it's a him. Yeah. And so yeah, there's actually a pronunciation for it. It's XAI,
Okay.
XAI or something like that.
All right.
And so his newest partner is. Have you ever heard of a pop singer named Grime?
No.
Okay, so I'm not that familiar with Grimes, but it's one of those people where I think that they're like in the type of like the Grammy world. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they make music on the level that like probably is the highest level that you could make music on, of like in the social area of music.
Yeah, that's without
Like
boost, right? That's the non-boost.
what?
That's the
Yeah,
non-boosted version.
exactly. Yeah. And so that's the mom. And so he was saying he gave the story on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan was like asking him about the baby's name, and he was explaining it a little bit. but he basically said, yeah, my wife came up with that name. And then Joe's like, oh, really? And he's like, and Elon says, yeah, she's great with names. And like he definitely like sort of paused for a second and like basically let on that like he didn't know exactly how that was gonna get interpreted. But yeah, not me either. Well, Elon Musk, one thing that's cool. Yeah, the yeah. Well, you know where they got that Cheeto from, right? It's from Joshua Hensley and Kurt Booker down on the couch. I think actually, I think we might have Peter V in the chat. Not 100% sure he was in here earlier, but I think Peter V came up with that meme. It was just absolute fire. It was Joshua Hensley and Kurt Wookert down on the they were there was a whole sort of inside joke that came out from that segment where they were like they were the ones that were mining the empty blocks and they were just sitting waiting on their government checks and eating Cheetos down on like so that must have been where that Cheeto came from, right?
Yeah, that didn't look like a hot Cheeto though. But
Nah, that was
more than likely they sent with $1,200 they probably sucked on the Cheeto before they stuck it in the door as a lock since they needed some nutrients. They sucked the hotness out of the Cheeto before they used it as a lock. And then we got my boy Mario Dog here says, "Oh my God, I just reached 200 followers on my Twitch account. Big up to you, Mario. He's been grinding. He twitches all day, every day. Funny shit, cool shit, hustle shit, everything. If you want to see a bunch of diverse content, go to Mario DG at 6537, user at 6537. Let's get him up to 300, then 400 and beyond, because he really does deserve it. Super cool guy, and as you can see, he's following 399 people, so it's not like he's just trying to gain followers without returning the favor. Really, really cool guy to follow.
yeah. He's one of those people that even with a language barrier, he's you know
Oh, dude, he tries, dude, and he doesn't care. He's not shy. Like, it's not wrong to correct him either. Like, for example, Mario, oh my God, I just reached ED, and he always tries, and people correct him, and he takes that as a good thing, because it means you actually care. And the guy's a brilliant guy. He hustles, whether it's with his food cart, whether he's selling little drinks, whether he's making Twitch pillows, whether he does whatever he can. He's a hard worker, and he hopes to become a professional Twitcher one day. And at the rate that he's going, I don't doubt that he will eventually reach that goal and just be able to Twitch from the crib, bruh. Just relax. And
MTV Cribs. He'll be the first Twetcher to be featured on MTV Cribs.
I watched that episode for sure. For sure.
I would.
I'd boost
He
it
would be
too.
like, "This is where I make my Twetches."
I'd boost it too, for sure. And then
Boost it.
and then we
Oh,
got
yeah, and we'd get Exhibit on there. We'd have to get Exhibit in the Twitch.
what? No, dude,
Maybe Danny Trejo could pull Exhibit.
we'll get
on.
we'll get Danny Trejo and Dan Krawisz.
Yeah.
Sick, dude. And then we got Harry here, posting
exhibit was Pimp My Ride. Though,
Yeah, Pimp My Ride. MTV Cribs was, I don't even remember. I never really watched any of their shows. I liked the Pimp My Ride because cars are cool, you know. They,
I
but
used to like Overhauling. That
Overhaul.
was cool.
I can't remember. There were so many different ones. There was one cool one that I liked as well with Jesse James or whatever. That was pretty cool. He would do all the crazy, like, different customizations to it. We got Harry here posting to Bitcoin files. Because if you want to store your data and own it without worries of it being deleted, use www.bitcoinfiles.org to store all of your data, kind of like a Google Drive. Yes, you do pay for it per upload, but it's yours. You own it. And if you get banned off of whatever, you know, mainstream place nowadays because everything is going communism, you get banned from it, all you do is lose your data. So you post it for free because they like you. The second they don't like you, you're banned. You lose all of your data. Bitcoin Files doesn't care who you are or what your opinions are. So use Bitcoin Files for all of your data, and this GIF will be on Bitcoin Files as long as the blockchain is around. Dope.
Yeah. It's awesome. It reminds me of Conway's Game of Life, if you've ever heard of that.
No, I haven't. It kind of reminds me of like a Galaga in a way, like one of the people you shoot, right?
Yeah.
Kind of the way that it moves. I like the
Like pixel art, like Trisha does.
yeah.
Trisha One Love. What's her user number?
Her user number is 4366, I think. I will double check. 4366. I'm almost 99% positive.
When I went, I don't know if you got hers pulled up about the runes, but I thought that was a cool Twetch too.
Let's look it up.
And
Let's get my
for the first
homegirl.
time, I understood.
Yeah, it is
For the first
4336.
time ever, I finally understood what that symbol was that's in her name,
Oh,
because
sweet.
I'd seen that there a while, and then she took a picture of her bag of runes.
Oh, sweet. I didn't even see this. How did I pass this over? Oh, this is
Yeah,
cool.
my wife and Trisha like bonded right away, which is awesome because, like she needs someone, like she's like, I don't know what this thing really is. Why are you trying to drag me into this? And then like she's got someone that she can connect with right away.
Trisha is super dope, man. Super dope. And it says in
I
her latest
appreciated it from Trisha because she's super she
dope.
just showed the love, right?
100%. And it says I'm offering rune readings and tarot readings. I can either post your results here directly on Twitch, or I can send it to you via DM on Discord. Super cool. And then it says she had branched that, and it says, since I didn't have enough time to get these done during the VIBEstream, I'd love to offer these to anyone who wants one. How about we do this? I'm just gonna throw this out there. Trisha, if you would like, or if you have time, you could come on tomorrow and do some live tarot readings. I think that would be dope, especially since you wanted to do it on the VIBEstream. You know, you're like family here. You're always welcome. Yeah. I'm excited to learn about the rune reading. I've heard about tarot, but I've never heard about rune reading. So if you would like to offer your services here on InTheBox tomorrow, I would love that. I'll pay you $2.18 if you come on tomorrow. How about that?
That'd be awesome. And see that rune that's in her picture?
Yeah.
That's in her name?
Yeah, the Padre.
The one that looks like an M.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I finally figured that out. I was like, oh, that's what that is. And I always wondered what it was,
Sweet.
So that one in particular, if she comes on tomorrow, we should ask her what that one means so that we know where it comes.
Yeah, well, definitely. I wonder if she's still in the chat. I'm not sure. If you're in the chat, hit us up, Trisha. Let us know. And then we got our favorite frog of them all, Mr. Elon Moisty, at 4. It says, hey, Calvinaire, you should put all CoinGeek articles on chain. You could use bitcoinfiles.org. is that something you would be interested in? I think it.
And then check out the comment. Elon too.
Can't even post bitcoinfiles.org links on Twitch. Got a juicy pick for. You should be able to post Bitcoin files.
Yeah, I thought.
Well, there's two different links. You got to make sure it's the link that says media.bitcoinfiles.org and make sure it has the extension with the end. Like for example, if we go, and it's gonna look a little bit funny on screen for a moment, but you should be able to post them as long as you're using the correct link. Excuse me. Let me see if I can.
I thought so, but I just wanted to check.
No, I'm 100% positive because it's right here. I mean, we were just talking about how somebody posted it from ITV. I mean, from there. But yeah, I'm not gonna go through that mission right now. It's gonna kill everything.
That's a great point from The thing is that somebody's got to do it first, you know, like, and why, and if Calvin is somebody who's so invested in space, you know, why not be the one who just says, like, you know, see, that's the thing that I like about Joshua Henry, because he's not like, you know, getting this reviewed by a team and seeing, you know, he's just like, just do it.
In my opinion, again, it's more about data ownership. Yeah, doesn't mean you don't have to, you know, post it anywhere else, but have a backup on bitcoinfiles.org where you own that data, period. What if your registrar goes down or something like that and you lose all of your data? I think...
Or it gets DDoSed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or,
serverless, Joshua Hensley, and Joseph Chin 1064. I like this. I'm gonna leave this guy a follow. Says Joshua Hensley knows serverless. Let's go into the next one. I saved this one for last because anybody that's made it this far, thank you all so much. I think we got like 7 people in the chat right now. Thank you all so much for. I know it was a really long episode. It didn't intend for it to be this long, but we were just rambling on and on and on, and we had a good time. But I want to save this one for last because I just love that this is all coming to surface, and it is the truth. Now, this is a very old tweet that our former president made. And this is like in reference to the whole Spygate thing, the Obamagate. So just wanted to leave it out there. If my president ever watches this, we all know you were right. And the people who didn't believe it, you guys were just useful idiots for the people perpetuate whatever it's called, this entire hoax. Okay? Perpetuating this entire hoax. You got any comments on this one? I don't know if we have the same political views or whatever the case is, or if you believe it or not, or any opinion on this?
You know, this one I gotta say I think it's hilarious. You know, like my political views aren't, you know, like that complicated. I just, you know, try and do right by other people, and I think that everybody, you know, can do wrong. I don't believe in thinking that one side has the monopoly on justice or, you know, or whatever. But yeah, I think I think it's a good meme. You know, it's about the current events. That's makes it a good meme.
I'm digging it, but just saying, this Twetch, I'd boost it 500 billion. And that's with a B. Maybe a trill. I'd throw a trill on this.
You know what, though? I would love if you boosted it with so much Andre's frog vision that it made it all the way to the morning briefing. And Trump did have to throw on the InTheBox Twetchcast review.
Oh my god.
Dude. Know, so then he would have to he would have to watch the review of the recap of the 24-hour stream, which would mean he'd probably end up getting to watch the 24-hour stream. He'd probably be so interested.
I'm digging you. You see, that's why everything happens for a reason, man. Your wisdom always.
One time too.
I don't live far from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My cousin got married.
It's I've never been there. I heard it's really nice to have a friend that golfs out there and stuff like that, and that's one thing it hasn't shut down. But yeah, it's I actually want to go out there. I heard Trump Jr. goes out there a lot. I would love to just. That's one person I'd probably be starstruck by. Whatever, sue me. Who cares? And to end it off, we're gonna go through some first-time Twetchers, the ones that actually left a comment. I like this one at 444. User number it's at 11928, but their name is 444. Big shout out to you. We got Christian Lopez shouted them out earlier. 2neats.com. Hello, Elon Moist, Twetch, Cosmos, Sagittarius, President Randy Brendan, ARS, OBKS, Dr. Bengo, Satoshi Doodles. How are you doing? A salute from your old fellas with new branding. We're here to drain your money button balance with our freelance work. I like that. Let's throw a like on that.
And didn't they have something else? Didn't they post something else too? You don't have the ability to check their other if they have a second post, do you? Because
of course.
They had a pretty good one too. I think they said what they specialize in.
Yeah, let's check it out. Oh, look. Best meme ever. They retweeted that. Okay, let's check out. Wow, they've been posting like crazy. Nice one. I'm gonna leave them a follow because they're posting a lot, and I need more people, more unique posts in my feed. Which one are you looking for?
Like they specialize in like death art or something like that. It was like, or like videos with like drum death like beats or something like that.
Sweet, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Post was.
Alright, let's read a couple of their posts. It says, good night to y'all, socially awkward. Hopefully our interactions here will help me with a bigger enemy than social cultural struggle that never endings, ups and downs, chronic depression, movements, and self-hatred, chained to PTSD and reward system tears flows. Came here to pitch start a lot of shit out of your kindly given money. Many subdivisions and ideas are flowing long time ago, but we'd like to focus on visuals now. So any requests to edit, we're masters of Premiere and robotic demonic voice-over Twetches.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, that part excited me a little bit. I was like, dang,
I'm gonna have to holler at these people.
But I would take some demonic voiceovers. I can't pass that up.
Right?
That's like a little mini hot dog. Even if you're not hungry, you can eat a little mini.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, right? Like, or like a mini M&M. Like right after the mini hot dog, right? A mini meal.
It's like the bun. The mini M&M is like the bun.
Yeah, I'm digging it. Well, I'm gonna have to holler at these people because I want to hear some of these demonic voices, so we could put that into our stuff, kind of like your buddy that did us the favor with the paratrooper stuff. Go over.
Still gotta send that to you.
No problem. That way we could use it. Yeah. We got Teal 11917 trying to figure out how this shit works. We got Kyoku at 11914. It be like that sometimes. It sure do be like that. We got Atogi Shi at 11913. I think the more I socialize with people, the more I forget who I really am. We have Wiz Altcoin at 11887 trying to find a new gem. And I think we've done these other ones already. Yeah, pretty sure we've done these other ones already. So you got any final thoughts for tonight? Manifestable for this extra long live stream?
Yeah. final thought I have is just, thanks for having me on, being a guest. I love getting to rap with y'all and to do the Twetch Culture Daily with you. I love it, and I also want to say that I don't think I ever mentioned it, but when you guys first did the video in the Discord, and everyone's videos were like all in a column in the middle, you know, I'm so glad that you figured out how to move those around. That was the one thing that was sort of coming between the Discord, surpassing the Zoom. And I think it's by far been an improvement now that you guys got your new laptops, now that you guys have your minds and your hearts focused. Once we get Hunter back here,
I
this thing's
cannot
gonna
wait.
be ready to blast off,
I cannot wait for Hunter
Did you
to
see
come
he
back.
posted?
No way. When?
Yeah, he
When?
posted yesterday, I think.
No, he did
At the
not.
end of the live stream.
For real?
Go check it out. It's actually a cool post too.
Don't
Maybe
tell
we should
me.
end the post on Hunter.
Oh, for sure. I did not know that. Nobody told me. He just posted 12 minutes ago. Hunter, if you hear me, holler if you're out there. I love you, brother. I miss you. I've been thinking about you daily, brother, and I hope you're doing well. And yeah, glad to know you're back. Yeah, man. So on that note, I just want to end it with, it feels good to know that my boy, I think this is a signal for me right here. He put 2 dogs in this, right? He knows how I am with dogs. It's my weakness. So I'm gonna say I'm happy to know that you're doing well. I'm happy to know you're alive. Hit me up whenever you get a chance. Got so much to talk about. We've been holding it down, brother, but we've been missing you like crazy. You're extremely valuable to us as a friend, as somebody that I could vent to and rant to and be able to tell you things that, I can't tell other, I can't really vent to other people. I left him a negative like. Huh? How'd I do that? Great. But, yeah, so good to know you're around. I'm glad you're posting, and I'm glad you're posting on Twitch. But I think that's it, Manifesto. I think we're gonna call it a wrap, and you guys know the drill. You've been watching Twitch Culture fucking daily. Yeah. Woo. Love you, Hunter.